Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Co-optional Podcast here on the 13th of February 2018.
That's a good day.
It is. It's one day before Valentine's Day, which means if you've forgotten, get your shit together right now.
We're here to remind you.
Yeah.
Get your shit together. Get your shit together. That's what we're here to
Probably shouldn't
remind
be
you.
listening to this show. You should be getting out there and getting what you need, because you could have a very, very upset partner if you're not careful.
Yeah. And only
watch
you
out
know
for
what
that.
you need. Only you know what you need. Just go get it.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is booze. You need lots of it.
Yeah.
Because you've screwed
If
up
you are,
if you're waiting
well,
till the
if you are
13th.
single, then you need to stock up for that. You know, you have to be aware regardless of your situation.
I think the real smarty pants that are watching right now know that you don't ever celebrate Valentine's on actual Valentine's. You make all of your plans for the day after, when everything is way cheaper and nobody has reservations.
Okay, that is true. However, you do need a gift on the actual date, because otherwise then the partner thinks you've
Valentine's
forgotten.
gifts are a thing. There's so many other times in the year when you
Yes.
give things to each other.
Sam is such a lucky man. Just the luckiest.
Valentine's gifts are a thing. Valentine's Day is way smaller
like,
in the UK than it is in the US, and even I know that.
Isn't the Valentine's gift like, let's eat some bodacious food? Isn't that the gift?
No, that's just part of it. Like
I thought it was like sex in a sexless marriage kind of thing. I thought that's what it was supposed to be.
You know, you at least make sure you have flowers, right?
But like, so many types of flowers are bad for kitties.
Well,
Oh my god, I forgot that you're a mess.
What?
Okay. Yeah. You have cats.
yeah, because
I forgot.
doors don't exist. You know, you can't put flowers in places where cats won't destroy them or have a horrible allergic reaction to them or anything. That's not possible.
I've literally never been in a relationship where there was an expectation from either, like, I never had an expectation for a gift, and I've never been with somebody who had an expectation for a gift.
I've never been in a relationship where there hasn't been one.
But you always eat bodacious food. That's what Valentine's is
yes,
about.
you do. That's what you do in the evening. And then there's a gift in the morning of some description,
Yeah,
usually
there is.
flowers or chocolates or something like that.
Yeah, there is.
And the better the gift, the better the other
commit
gift.
harder,
if you know what I
Jesse.
mean. No, do you know
Yeah,
what to say
there
anymore.
is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just imagine me doing the nudge, nudge, wink, wink instead of the static dog image right now, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine that is happening. But
So give
one
me
way or the other,
examples.
you're being
Give me examples of Valentine's gifts.
flowers,
Okay, but what if
Obviously.
the person fucking hates flowers? What's next?
chocolates.
Okay.
What if the person's like, I'm on a diet, I'm watching my figure TV, then what?
A smaller number of chocolates.
What if they're like, I'm allergic to chocolate? What if they are like,
who
I
the
don't like
fuck
the
are you
concept of
dating
chocolate?
that doesn't like flowers and doesn't like chocolate?
Yeah. Then what do you do? What do you
So
get?
now what?
Now
Yeah,
you
what
know
should-
that the
teach
relationship
me.
is doomed to fail, and you should just give up on it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Simple
I
as
feel
that,
like
really.
I feel like someone in chat said jewelry. I feel like Valentine's jewelry is that's setting you up for failure later in the year because there are other much more important dates.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
if
you
you
wanna
give
watch out for
jewelry on
that.
Valentine's Day,
That's too
you
much.
screwed
Jewelry is
yourself.
more of a Christmas gift, I think.
Yeah.
You screwed yourself.
If you
Yeah,
wanna get
and cheap
jewelry.
jewelry sucks, so you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying spend a bunch of money on Valentine's Day. In fact, I'm saying the exact opposite of that. You know, it's small. That's small gift and go out to a really good dinner day. Or preferably do the dinner, as you said, a day earlier or a day after so that you don't have to deal with reservations. That's the way to do it. But small gift. It's about making sure that the person in question knows that you fucking remembered. You know,
What about,
it's like your anniversary once you get past all the cool numbers. You know? It's
What are
like
the cool numbers?
Yeah, what are the
Well, I mean,
numbers?
My mom is obsessed with
we
how
had our
like
10th,
every anniversary
so-
is associated with a material. She
Oh,
loves
she's
that
one of
shit.
those. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
one
there
of
is
those
that.
people.
You know, we had just had our 10th. So this year is probably not a cool one. It's an 11th, but I'm going to have to get
looking it up.
something to make sure that she knows I didn't forget,
anniversary
right?
Material. 11th year is steel. That's dope as fuck.
That's fucking awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. You can get some metal-related thing. That's great.
Yeah, and last year it was tin. 10th sucks. Tin?
Tin,
Although ninth
yeah.
is pottery, so
But
like,
tin also rhymes with 10.
and that's
Maybe that's
yeah,
what they were
but
thinking.
it's also aluminum or aluminium. Is
Aluminium.
another one.
Mm.
But 12 is silk. Oh, fine silk and linen.
Mm.
Dude,
Yeah.
11 steel, you need to get like Jen
A
needs to have like
sword.
one of those like
We
a
already
fucking
had
gauntlet.
that. We already did the whole 70,000 tons of metal this year. I don't think we can really do anything like that again.
That's true.
Yeah, you're
But
killing
you
You
it.
do that
can't
every year.
outsteal that.
Don't get into you can't get into a rut. It's got to be a new kind of metal.
I think
You
what
can.
we're learning from Dodger is like never care about your partner, so when you finally do, it's really special.
What? No, I'm just saying he always goes on the metal cruise. So you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
say,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's your steel, my love.
My love, my lady.
My love, my lady.
Oh, man. We'll get an actual
Oh.
sword.
I'm gonna get you a fedora for the moment when you reveal your steel.
Ew, ew.
I didn't mean for it to sound that way, but I had
It
to
sounded
commit with the
innuendo-esque.
I was about to unload one of the whole.
I had to just keep saying it.
That was too good. I was about to unload one of the whole. While you were doing this, I studied the blade. But then it's like, no, that's actually good enough in and of itself. Just let that one hang for a bit. See where it goes.
Happy February 13th, everybody.
Nothing personal, kids. Welcome to the Corruptional Podcast. We do occasionally talk about video games. You may notice we're guestless today. Pyrian Flax was scheduled to appear. He is sick as a dog. As you probably discovered if you... Despite being sick as a dog, he did stream, which apparently was about 2 hours of coughing a lot. So, him
Okay.
being British and naturally very polite, said, I don't want to ruin someone else's show by constantly coughing over it. Well, okay, it's up to you. We've had plenty of people who didn't give a shit about that, but feel free. So
Just
hopefully
mute
next
themselves.
week. Yes, for
Yeah.
Pyrian.
Everyone has the flu. Everyone's getting the flu, and I swear to God, if anyone gives it to me, I will kill them.
Wait, there's a second
them.
round of the flu?
Have you seen like the charts? It's crazy. If you look at the states, basically we're like in a perpetual state of red, and red clearly is bad. It just gets worse.
US influenza map. Load up.
It's not looking good for the
Widespread.
Yeah, the flu's everywhere. Everyone's getting
Stay
the
the
flu.
fuck away from everybody, basically.
Yeah. Hey, wash your hands and don't cough on people's faces. And if you're a parent, make sure your little kid learns how to cough. Because I swear to God, if I have another kid just go like right on me, I will punt a child. I swear to God.
You know, I wonder to myself, with someone as a somewhat compromised immune system, if I have an actual cause for self-defense when it comes to things like that. Is it okay for me to punch that kid in the throat?
I can't stand. That's my one like parenting thing. Dodger.
Yes.
I'm gonna show up.
I'll
and
never
be
let
like,
my child cough on you. Because I don't want you to. I don't
That's
want you.
because you're gonna be a good parent. That's because you're a good parent. Me? That's gonna be. I would. That'd be my number one thing. Teach a kid to be polite in company and teach a kid not to cough on other people. That's it. That's all. And then I'd be like, I'm done.
Everything else, ruin your life. Feel free.
I do wish we'd somewhat adopted the attitude of a lot of Asian countries where they will wear a face mask if they're, for the benefit of others. It's not like some people seem to believe you wear a face mask, it somehow protects you from germs. No, it doesn't really work that way, but it makes sure the germs don't get out. It's
it's the idea of not spreading shit.
Yes, exactly. But apparently in America, we do not give a flying fuck about that.
I see more and more of that in LA. The other day I was at the grocery store and there are like 4 or 5 people with masks on.
Good.
It doesn't phase you at all. After a while, you're like, oh, all right, that guy's protecting me from his deadly disease.
Yes, which is
Thanks,
very
pal.
polite. That's exactly what should be happening. But yeah, that's for some people, for some reason, that's not a thing that you do. Or even bother to wash your hands. Like, look, we've got like hand sanitizer dispensers like every 5 feet now, everywhere. For fuck's sake, use them. Really? They had them all over the boat for obvious reasons, because the last thing you want is a epidemic on a boat.
Oh my God.
Oh
yeah.
my God, yeah.
That is the absolute worst. So, be hygienic, is what I'm saying.
Do it.
Just
Giving
don't
out
get
advice
everyone
today.
sick.
Just dishing it out.
Get your shots. Don't get diseases. Don't kill me. Everyone, my
Yeah, please
favorite
don't
is when
kill
people
me.
are like, when people are like, well, if you keep using hand sanitizer and all that stuff, there's eventually gonna be a super bug that's immune to all that. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll take my chances when that happens. Until then, I'm not getting a cold. I ain't gonna get a cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, am I gonna spread it to other people? More to the point.
Right.
We're giving out
I'll
advice
wait for
mostly
the
because
super
we don't
bug to
really
kill
have a
me.
lot
It probably has deserved it by then.
talk about
It's
today.
probably earned the right to get me if it's become a super bug. Fine, you win, nature. But until then, I'm not getting sick.
Survival of the goddamn fittest, which apparently at this point turns out to be a germ. Well, that's how it goes.
Yeah, man.
Wasn't there a cruise ship that got quarantined a few years ago? Asks chat. That happens all the time. There's outbreaks of norovirus and things like that on those. They have procedures when that happens. Like they've got to dry dock the ship for X amount of time. They've got to literally spray the whole thing down. Everything's got to be washed. And there's a lot of linen and a lot of carpet on a ship like that. So you got to be super careful. Hygiene on ships is really important.
How was the trip? How was your adventure?
Fucking loved it.
Yeah.
It was great. For the first time, we actually took people with us. So that was cool because honestly, that thing get pretty intense. Like there was a day where we looked at the schedule and like, well, the first band we want to see is at 10 a.m. The last band we want to see is at like 4 a.m. So how exactly, who can we sort of split up into groups with to make sure that at least, one of us has a partner or whatever? Not that you would need one. It's just like the fun of going to see a band with somebody else. And it's like, well, I'm going to take a nap here, and you're going to sleep here, and then I'm going to get up later so we can see this, and all this kind of shit. Like, literally, the music is 9 a.m. till 5 a.m., I think.
Can you hear it like in the cabin still?
It depends where you are on the ship. Honestly,
I've wondered about that before, like whether or not a metal cruise is basically like you're also listening to metal while you try to sleep.
It's nowhere near as bad as that because, honestly, a lot of that noise just goes straight out to sea. The open air stage, you'll get bass, especially if you're on one of the floors close to the pool deck. You'll definitely get that. It's like I always say to anyone, bring a pair of several pairs of earplugs. Because one, you should not be listening to that many concerts on full blast over the course of 4 days unless you want some fucking serious tinnitus. Holy shit. I mean, that's a lot. It's, you see how many bands are at a music festival. There are more bands than that, and they're playing more. It's 60 bands, and they all play 2 sets minimum.
Right.
Jesus.
So it's pretty intense. Bring earplugs. I've never had a problem sleeping on that boat. I slept great. The way ships rock on the ocean, and the sea air as well.
Sleep.
Yeah. I was actually finding I was falling asleep in the middle of gigs because it was actually just so relaxing. And I'm listening to some really heavy shit, but I'm finding myself dozing off because the ship's rocking back and forth just a little bit. The sea air is there. I'm really liking the music. I'm like, what the fuck? How am I falling asleep in the middle of this? This is incredibly loud, but yeah, you can't do it.
I get that. Boats, planes, trains, anything moving that has sort of like a rhythmic motion knocks my ass out immediately.
God, I wish planes would do that. Sleeping on a
man.
plane for me is a very difficult thing to do.
Same for Sam.
I slept from here. I think I said this before. I slept from here to Australia. I just woke up on the other side of the world.
That's a dream scenario for me.
Yeah. It happens all the time. I get in a plane, pass out immediately before we hit the run.
That's a
take
gift.
off.
That's a fucking superpower. That's really, if you can explain to people how to do that, you would make millions just on the courses alone.
I wish I could. I just I don't know, but I think it has to do with like the white noise of like the engines, or if you're on the sea, the rocking of the boat. Like if you're on a train, they're like click, 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 click.
Yeah,
like,
there's definitely something with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only reason that I ever wake up on a plane is my neck. If for like some reason I keep doing this thing,
Yeah. The whole nodding off thing. Yeah.
I keep seeing those. There are those scarves that you can get that wrap all the way around your neck and create a thing like this. I keep looking at those and being like, I wonder if those work or if they're just
like those weighted blanket things that they've been selling. Those compression blankets. Have you seen those?
Oh, I actually just bought a compression blanket because
Of course you did.
I love heavy blankets. And I was like, oh my God, like heavy blankets are becoming a thing that people want and are available. Hell yeah. So
My time is now kind of situation.
Yeah, I bought a super heavy blanket and I'm really excited about it. They all of the websites that make them have to have big old signs that are like, please don't buy these for your baby. Like literally you have to, because like
crush them to
they
death.
make child-sized ones, but the rule of thumb is if your child can't push it off of themselves, then like you can't. They'll suffocate under the thing. It's really heavy, right?
It's not good. No, I've not found a solution to the whole sleeping on, or even getting like good rest on a plane thing. Any kind of pillow, I've tried several of them. None of them seem to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make the flight any less traumatic. Still, every time I get done, I'm just like, oh, I'm gross. And I hate being on planes.
Yeah. You feel terrible after that. But the fact that you can doze off on a plane and then wake up in another time zone is miraculous in my eyes.
It was crazy. I got
love
poked
to be
by
able to
the
do that.
flight attendant who was like, "Sir, do you want breakfast?" I was like, "What time is it?" She's like, "We're about an hour and a half from landing." I was like,
That's incredible.
Yes!
The dream.
It was so good. It was perfect. Yeah.
That is the dream.
Yeah. Every time I travel with Jesse, the second we're off the plane, he's like, I need a shower. Like he just,
it's
wants a
horrible.
shower.
Yeah.
Like that's all that he wants in the whole world. Is
Yeah,
to
you got
take
a
a
plane
shower.
funk off. You know,
I feel so gross.
I always wear like, the loosest clothes I've got and stuff like that. And,
Same.
Stuff that I would immediately just throw down as soon as I get to the hotel, just like shower now. It's all horrible and terrible. I want it off me. I want the stench of it, the feel of it, the very notion of it to go away.
It's like the recycled air and just being in a tube with people for 10 hours. You're just like grossed. I'm like, it's a tube. You're in a tube with people.
It's just a gross way to put it, but it's real. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just like, oh.
Not wrong.
Everything about this sucks. Yeah.
There's a train that goes from not a train, it's like a bus that goes from Los Angeles to San Francisco.
Okay, there is a difference between those two things.
I know, yeah. And it's entirely like little sleeping tubes. And I'm so curious. So curious. They're like, yeah, we can hold people up to 6 foot and you just have your own little sleeping tube. And every time I look at it, I'm like, I would probably be hella comfy in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone of your size would probably fucking love that.
Sleeping tube? From LA to San Francisco?
From LA to San Francisco. You get on at night and then you wake up in the morning and they bring you like tea and stuff.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, but they're just like it's literally a bus just made up entirely of little beds.
Interesting.
That's pretty cool.
I want to try it so bad.
You did pick something of the wrong time to find out about that, but
right.
At some
Lately,
point.
I've really, really wanted to go hiking. I think it's literally just because I can't.
Yes.
I can't go hiking, and so I'm like, I want to go hiking so bad. Yeah. So.
Pretty much. All right. Well, we didn't promise video games. We only occasionally talk about them, but we can give it a try. Give it a shot. I don't want to start us off. What you got?
I played Aegis Defenders.
Ah, yes, which was the sort of side-scrolly tower defense-y kind of game that you were talking about.
It's like an RPG that has tower defense points in it.
Okay.
I remember like seeing this game and paying a lot of attention to it when it was being kickstarted. So it was really fun to finally play it. I think it's really cute. It's got good characters and an interesting story. But yeah, the way that each level is basically it is a side scroller. You start from one end of the map, you work your way to the very end of the map. At the very end of each map, there's something that you're going to need to protect. They do justify it inside of the story. They say like why like everything goes to shit the second that you find this stuff. Which I was fine with. Once they explained it, I was like, sure, I'll go along with that. That's fine. So then you control it can be a 2-player game because you control a girl and her grandfather. The grandfather puts down like turrets. The girl puts down traps. The girl has a gun and the grandfather has a hammer. So you can upgrade all of that stuff. You can make it so that his hammer does like way more damage. His hammer is also what he uses to like fix stuff. So both characters, I think that they did a really good job of making it so that both characters have their obvious usefulness. The grandfather really early on gets like a bonus to collecting materials for them to make their traps and things out of. So, whenever you need to really quickly collect a bunch of materials, it always makes more sense to switch to the grandfather, right? So like balancing out the time on that, it happens in waves at the end of each level. So balancing out the time is fun. And yeah, the game itself, I think is really good. I've been playing it on hard, but there's like normal, hard, and insane or something. And hard is totally doable. There's only been one level where I had to redo it like a few times. I was like, I don't know how to do this, but it does a good job of forcing you to think about how to problem solve with what you have. There will be levels where you just don't have any of a certain material, and I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to do this when I can't build turrets, right? But there's always a way. Like, it kind of forces you to think about that stuff, and I think being early on in the game right now, it's probably going to help a lot as I progress to be able to think a bit more openly.
What is the plot of this game?
The plot is that you and your granddaughter kind of live like on the outskirts. There are like these really amazing beings called the Deathless, and all of the different areas of the planet serve different Deathless. So like it's basically like there are gods that live on Earth, right? And if you're in India, you serve one god, and if you're in America, you serve one god. Like that kind of an idea. And in the story, there's a guy who got really fed up because the god that he was serving was very violent and cruel, and he found a way to kill the Deathless, which had never been done before, and establish the very first like kingdom that wasn't ruled by a Deathless but was ruled by men instead. And so far the story is kind of an interesting power struggle between people who believe that the Deathless are wonderful and that there's nothing wrong with serving them, and people who think that humans should govern themselves. And so that's kind of like the concept. And so we're finding all of these different ruins and items that are kind of associated with the Deathless and why they're here.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's super cool.
Yeah, we saw two different pieces of footage there. The first one was actually really old. Bear in mind, this was a Kickstarter game, so there was a Kickstarter demo that Northern Lion played like 3 years ago, and the footage we're watching at the moment is from last week. So we're seeing there's a Metroidvania aspect to it. It's not just stick around in one area by any means. In fact,
no.
How would you say the gameplay is distributed percentage-wise? It's like... time-wise, the amount of time that you spend in each level, I think, is 50-50. But you spend like 75% of your movement time being in this more of a side-scrolly section where you're trying to get to the relic or whatever it is that you're finding at the end. And then once you get to the relic, that's where the sort of
that's when you tower defense it.
Yeah, and are you collecting resources up to that point in order to build the shit that you need to defend it? Yeah, and you don't need to have any resources, but at least for me so far, you don't need to have any resources by the time you get to the tower defense area. Like, they expect you to use what you find to get there in the first place. Right. So in between each wave, all of the materials that are in the tower defense zone respawn. Huh. So you can if you planned it out well, your stuff won't break down, right? And you can build stuff up to be better, or you can put down even more stuff.
There's also an interesting like color coded element to this where like the girl is dressed in blue and the grandfather is dressed in yellow. Anything that the grandfather makes does really well against yellow monsters, and anything that the girl makes does really well against blue monsters. Which at first I was like, that's kind of like weird and gimmicky, but when you're actually in the tower defense section, it's fascinating how much you panic, like, oh my god, this blue thing is like getting right through all of my shit, and you have to like swap people and like figure out a better place to put everyone. If like if I'm controlling the girl and I leave the grandfather, he'll just do wherever I left him, he'll do whatever the AI tells him is like the right thing to be doing. So if I leave him next to turrets, he'll just sit next to the turret and wait until it needs to be fixed, and then he'll just like automatically fix it. There's points where there's like auto like guns that are already built. So if I took like the girl and put her on a gun and aimed it and then switched to the grandfather, she'd just sit there and auto shoot it forever,
right,
until I swapped back to her. So you can set a lot of stuff up, and depending on the way that you set it up, each wave will get progressively easier, or they'll get way harder because you're wasting materials, you know.
Presumably you can play this game co-op.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I was just thinking, would co-op be infinitely easier?
Probably, right? Because then you know, both of you are moving around. Yeah, there's a split screen option. So
the way they do the split screen is quite unusual, I've noticed. They don't have, it seems like they don't use the split screen until it's necessary, and then they kind of dynamically change the size and angle of it.
Yeah, it looks cool the way that they do it, I think.
Yeah, I've never seen that done before. I'm sure it has been done at some point, but that's a pretty cool way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the game a lot. I think that there's a lot there. So.
Might worth it's up on Switch, this one, isn't it? Might be worth having a look at it on
that. That would make sense if it's on Switch. That would not surprise me at all.
It's either already there or coming to Switch. Recently, by the way, we had an announcement that A Hat in Time is not coming to Switch.
Yeah, that's weird, but
some people very, very fucking angry, as it turns out. They never actually promised a Switch version. I think it was just an expectation. But
did they not, maybe during while they were crowdfunding?
No.
It was no?
They said that the only thing they did during crowdfunding is that they would potentially look into a Wii U version. Obviously, by the time the game came out, that was obsolete. And they never promised it. Like, it wasn't a stretch goal or anything. They just said, we'll look into the feasibility of it. As to why it's not coming, I think the explanation they gave is to do with the Unreal 3 engine and the fact that the Unreal 3 engine doesn't play nice with Switch. And Hat in Time is still on Unreal 3. You know, it's been that game took a lot of time to develop. It was on an older engine. Some people had said, and I'm not exactly sure how true this is or what the technical aspects around it are, that Rocket League is also Unreal 3 and that works. But I have to wonder if there was maybe an awful lot of black magic that they had to do to get that going. It's also possible that they just would like to move on to the next game and don't want to waste the time. I mean, yeah, you could argue it would probably make a decent amount of money for them. Probably would. You know, it's I don't think the Switch is the gold mine that some people claim it is, and it's over time, I think, going to become less and less of a guaranteed success if you put something on the Switch. People who got in there nice and early, they made a shit ton of money off it.
I was going to say, the more indie stuff that's on there,
the more difficult it's going to be to get noticed.
Yeah, to stand out, for sure.
Yeah. Because it's a curated store, but if there's still 20 plus games coming out a week on it, then yeah, you're going to have trouble finding some of them. And you're going to have the same problem that, not to the degree that Steam has, but the same problem that any busy platform's going to have, that people are not going to get noticed. And plus, there's a lot of fucking competition. You can only buy, a certain number of games at a time, for God's sake. So I don't really know what's going on with it. There was a weird exchange on Twitter. Like, the devs seemed a little annoyed but considering how they had been treated by the initial responders, let's just we'll call it the Switch first response team or whatever, who are very militant about the Switch and getting ports for it, I probably would be acting in a similar way to them. I would be very bothered by that. It's like, you're not entitled to a version of it. If they're going to make one, great. If not, that's kind of on them. You know, there's no guarantee it would have made a huge amount of money, although it is a logical platform for a logical platformer. You know, it is the kind of place you would expect to find a game like that. But, well, there you go. Apparently it's not going to be a thing for whatever reason. All right, cool.
All right.
What else have we been playing this week? Jesse, you got anything on your mind?
Yeah, holy crap. I played a ton of stuff this week. I think right off the bat, just to really quickly give it's an unimportant thing to really talk about, but at the end of the day it was fun. The Battle for Azeroth Alpha. Krendo and I ran through that on the Horde side. It's still Warcraft. It looks like Warcraft. It plays like Warcraft, but it looked, it was beautiful. It's all troll zones, and so everything, well, at least on the Horde side, and so it was like really exciting to look at. Everything seemed very Aztec-y, and it was beautiful. It was fascinating, but it's still the exact same game, so really unimportant in the grand scheme of things. It's also an alpha, so who knows. Real talk though, I'm fascinated right now with a game called We Were Here Too. Dodger and I played it for Fan Friday the other day.
We only played it a little bit.
Yeah.
So as not to spoils.
Okay.
For the kids. I love the concept. It is, I know you played We Were Here, Dodger, which is the original, but
this one's a little different for sure.
Is it? Oh. You'll have to explain what We Were Here is, but We Were Here 2 is literally just like a game where you are two explorers trapped in a crazy castle up in the mountains, and you are tasked with helping each other escape. It's an escape room style game, and you and your co-op partner are trapped in two different rooms, and you have to like escape together. And so you have to use what you see in the room to help the other person out, and vice versa. And so it's like a normal, it's kind of like the escape room, like the real world escape room aesthetic, except in this creepy castle. And man, it was a ton of fun. It was like, what runes do you see? Oh, I see these runes, and you have to work together. There's the potential for it to get real weird, because they're straight up just like a weird ghost thing that we saw. I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you what we saw, but on my screen at some point I saw this weird shadow creature, and at the very end Dodger saw something and she was like, I'm done. So yeah.
That sounds like the kind of shit they were pulling on you in Dead Space 3 at one point with the co-op, where one person would see a thing and the other person wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, you're literally in We Were Here, one person was called the librarian, and one person was called the adventurer, I want to say, or the prisoner, something like that. And so one person was literally in the same huge room for the whole game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because you're the one who has all of the information. So like, say that Jesse
the librarian then?
Yeah. So say that Jesse and I were playing and I was the librarian. Jesse would be telling me like, this is what I see. And I would be going through all kinds of like books and stuff that are around the room, trying to figure out like, where does it tell me about this puzzle so that I can help Jesse. Right. So We Were Here Too is interesting because, and again, we only played a little bit of it, but it seems like it's much more balanced in terms of both of you are going into different rooms and both of you have information that the other person doesn't have, and you're having to communicate a lot so that you both get stuff done. Yeah. But it still gives you two different titles.
Right.
Like,
it's noble and peasant or something like that.
The Lord and the peasant. Yeah. So I'm wondering how that comes into play, or if it does. Librarian made sense, so I feel like, I don't know.
If you want to see a fascinating, I'm so glad we put the video together like this. If you want to see a fascinating look into like you, the viewer, knowing everything and watching Dodger and I try to figure shit out, I included both video feeds.
Yeah,
and then sometimes overlaying and stuff.
All that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you can see that, Dodge will try to describe something that is very obvious to the viewer, but like I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And there's one part where we have to find swords to put into knights' hands, but all the swords look almost the same except little tiny differences.
That was
yeah. And so I can only imagine being a viewer and being super frustrated watching us goof around like, what do we do? But it had the same vibe as Keep Talking.
No,
and
yeah.
nobody yeah. It is the exact same vibe
asymmetry
where
of information where, one person is hyper dependent on the other in order to get stuff done. But what I'm liking about what I'm seeing here, like as you described, Dodger, like the first game sounds like one person had a very limited role, and if they didn't like that particular role, well, tough shit, But in this one, it seems like you get to do a lot more, and you get to be more involved in the game.
And it's more, this one, I don't know what the first one was, but this one, as you progress through, becomes more than just like a room escape. At one point, I was literally stuck on a stairwell, and all I had access to was like a cross with images on it. And Dodger was like, okay, I have to solve the puzzle. And while she's doing that, the stairs are disappearing, and there's only lava underneath me. So it's like a timed event. Nice. And I was like, oh, shit. And then you were in a room that was closing in on you while I had to solve a puzzle. I think that's really cool. So I think a game like this, I love the concept. It was super fun to play.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think there's a lot of potential for that sort of thing. I think even particularly with the use of, say, smart devices to allow you to have additional screens that you can use to have information. I'm actually kind of surprised to have not heard of a game like this using smartphones. Will probably work pretty damn well, considering.
Yeah. I don't think I've even done an escape room that utilizes like tablets or anything like that, now that I think about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I haven't done an escape room that's involved one person having information that other people don't have. I imagine that those do exist.
They do exist. Yeah.
I have only done 2 escape rooms, and they were quite limited.
Oh my God. If you get next time you're in Anaheim, y'all should do the Hex Room, because that shit is bonkers. What's
the Dodger? I know you know this. What's the one where one person is literally tied down in a chair at the beginning, and everyone else starts in a different room, and the objective is to get to that person? But that person can only see.
I've never done that one. I don't know.
The person tied down has all this information around them, but they can't move. So they have to like look at all the information, and then everyone else is in different rooms, and you can shout to each other and hear each other, but they're all locked in different rooms.
That's cool.
And then the objective is to get to the person and free them and escape.
Interesting. That is somewhat similar to the Hex Room.
Okay.
The Hex Room is another one where everybody is. I won't spoil like the idea of it, but everybody is on their own for the most part, which is fascinating and super terrifying. It's just like, I don't want to hold everybody back, but it's really, really fun.
Does sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll try something like that.
So
yeah, you can check that video out over on your channel. You did a Fan Friday of that, I believe.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was an interesting mechanic.
I started off on Kingdom Come. I don't know if you've had the chance to do that. Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah, not yet. It's one of the things that's on my desktop. I haven't had a chance to play, but I hear good things.
I mean, I have played very little of it because I only got a chance to do so briefly this morning, and I think that it's definitely gonna have a lot of appeal to a certain kind of person, and that person might be me to some extent.
Okay.
Because some of the things I'm already encountering remind me of old school RPGs, like old school CRPGs, things like Fallout and the older, Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment sort of thing, where it seems like there's going to be a number of different ways to solve problems. And there are going to be a number of interesting and weird interactions when it comes to skills. Like, there's already the ability to persuade people just by having skill points and perks in various different attributes, but persuasion isn't just down to like, I have points in this. It's down to things like if you have a reputation that precedes you, or even if you look intimidating, if you happen to go somewhere and there's like blood all over you, then that can intimidate certain people or could change the kind of reaction that they have. You can even apparently you can even clean your sword after, fighting with it, or you can leave it bloody. And if you go somewhere with a bloody sword, some people may very well react to you differently than they would were that not the case.
Right.
So that's in itself quite interesting. There's already some RPG-like mechanics in there, like food and needing food. Immediately after leaving my house, the guy was whining about how hungry he was. So I'm like, right, well, I picked up a bread roll and an apple on the way out. I guess that'll do for a little bit. It did me for a minute and a half. And then this guy's like, I'm fucking hungry again. I was like, Jesus, man. Okay, fair enough. So I went and found a pot of stew and ate a bunch of that or whatever. As I imagine that mechanic becoming annoying quicker than it should.
Right.
Those are the sort of things that when added to games more often than not, they're put in there for added realism's sake and then just become a pain in the dick. Just becomes unnecessary meta management. The one thing I did find, which was annoying when it came to the whole realism aspect, because it's not in any way realistic, it's just they decided to put this in.
Right.
The way you save the game. So apparently the game will auto-save after you finish a quest. Problem is the first quest I was given is a pretty long, like 5+ stage quest. So I wasn't able to save there. But it said, well, if you go and find somewhere to sleep, then you're able to save the game by doing that. It's like, okay, I've played games that have done that. That's fine. Let's head back to my house. Because, hey, this is the house where I'm living with my parents. Surely there is a bed or a blanket somewhere in this house.
Surely.
I am either blind or we ain't got no beds. We ain't got no blankets.
What?
Where the fuck do we sleep? I have no idea. I couldn't find anything. And the only reason I was able to actually save my progress and not have to start again, because I was doing this frantically before we sound checked for the show, is I went to the barmaid and I was able to get a couple of these schnapps. I think they're called Savior schnapps. And that allows you to... Yeah. Schnapps? Like the drink, like the alcoholic drink schnapps. Yeah. She gave me 3 of those and I was able to save that way. But you can't just save wherever you want unless you have those things. Otherwise, you have to find a bed.
I thought you were going to say that you drank all of them, and if you drink like 3 drinks in a row, you automatically pass out, and then you force the game to let you save.
That wouldn't surprise me, actually. I think the game's got to be full of little things like that some people are going to appreciate, and some people are not. For some of it, I definitely like the idea of being able to persuade people and have a lot of different factors go into it rather than just a bar. It's cool that reputation matters in the world or that my appearance matters in some way. But things like a hunger meter and limiting saves that way, that's just inconvenient. And I'm going to imagine that these schnapps are going to end up expensive or hard to come by or some other fucking bullshit. So I'm not looking forward to that. The tutorial is also a little lacking. I went and did a little sword fighting tutorial, right at the start of the game. I'm thinking, okay, good, I'm going to learn how to fight. Well, you learn a bit, a very, very small amount, but you don't learn how to block. And then the first quest you were involved in involves getting money from someone that owes your dad money. And I attempted to persuade the guy, failed miserably, ended up in a fist fight with him, and without the game having told me at any point how to block. Also, as far as I can tell, fist fighting works differently from sword fighting, so everything that I had learned really didn't have much value.
Oh, man.
I did win the fight somehow. I did win the fight, but I had to go into the options menu to find what the block button was, and it doesn't seem to fully work. I imagine there's probably some other mechanic associated with it. Like, you can't just hit the block button. You probably got to aim your fists in a certain direction or the cursor in a certain direction in order for blocks to work. Because there's like a 5-pointed directional system when it comes to your attack swings and things like that. So, yeah, it doesn't do a great job of telling you everything that you need to know right off the bat. And the stuff that it does tell you, it tells you stuff that you probably aren't going to need to know yet, but it neglects some pretty obvious stuff. And apparently this tutorial, you're still getting messages 6 hours in. Like, the linear tutorial part of the game is apparently 6 hours long. So you've got to be ready for that. Like, the world doesn't open up before that.
That's insane.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first game, Persona's tutorial's like 8 fucking hours. And as long as the linear part of the game is fun, then I don't have any problem with them locking down the world up until that point. It's just, I'm not sure. I haven't played enough of the game to get a feel for it yet. The VO seems pretty good so far. Main character's VO, everybody I've spoken to sounds pretty good. Dialogue options are reasonably varied. And there's a lot of cool systems behind it. The menus could use some work. They're very cluttered. But I think the biggest problem the game's going to have apparently right now is that it's very buggy and performance is struggling. And I found that, actually. The game doesn't perform brilliantly. It performs well enough, but this is on a top-end system. So if you're running on anything less than that, you're probably going to be running into some issues. And this is after they had a big 20 gigabyte day one patch to apparently address a lot of these issues. And it hasn't. There's quite a lot of reviewers are saying the main problem the game has right now is it's buggy and there are performance issues. So, yeah, watch out for that.
Is it fun, though?
I mean, it's hard to say up to this point. I mean, I think you'd have to play a good few hours to really figure that out. It seems like it's got the potential to be. The fighting seems like it could be good, but what it's shown me so far is so limited that it's hard to know.
Right.
But I do like the fact that it's got a lot of these really cool RPG systems, and I'm looking forward to maybe building my reputation in this medieval world and having characters react to me in a different way on the basis of things that I've done, and hopefully have the world sort of be they're promising a living world. I don't know how true that's going to be. It's hard to say. It looks like there's quite a lot of depth in it, which is good, but I just have not played enough to really have formed any real solid opinion other than there's parts of this game that are janky and don't run very well, and they're going to have to fix that. Like, it's definitely not a day one purchase, I think, in my eyes, but I'm intrigued by it. I'm going to put some more hours into it and see what happens.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I definitely want to hear more people's thoughts on it as time goes on, because clearly it takes a long time to get into it, so I imagine it's going to take more than 1 or 2 streams.
Yeah, it's going to require some patience. I think streamers so far seem to be pretty into it, even if they haven't got out to the open world yet. Because the stuff that they've encountered has been generally interesting enough to keep them going, so I'm intrigued. And we'll see just how well they do this whole setting. The sort of 15th century Bohemia, I think is where it's supposed to be set. Okay. So I'm intrigued to see how well they deliver that and how interesting they make the world as a result of using that particular culture. We will see. It's definitely not a disaster, though, by any stretch. It's not one of those situations where there was a Kickstarter that earned millions of dollars and promised the fucking universe and then came out and was an absolute shit pit. It's clearly not that, which I think there was a genuine risk of that being the case. But it certainly seems a little undercooked, and it's a bit odd. They're saying, hey, we'll probably have the next patch, which is a major performance and bug fix patch, in 2 weeks. I'm like, well, Why don't you just wait 2 weeks? I'm not sure why they're releasing now. Like, are they trying to dodge something? Do they think this is just it's not a bad release window for PC. I mean, there's not a lot going on.
It's true. Yeah.
So maybe it's that.
Huh?
How much, sorry if you already said this, how much content are they claiming there is?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
Good question.
A lot. Let's see. I mean, I'm just going to Google it.
On the topic of promising the world, I'm just curious, like, how expansive.
Their
claiming this
interview in
world is.
2015 with Eurogamer claimed it was at least 50 hours.
Okay.
So, big. You know, they're claiming very, very big. So, there were some other places that were claiming even more than that, but we don't know yet. No one's beaten it as far as I'm aware. The reviews that have come out are probably based on copies that didn't come in until fairly last minute. So I don't know if there's anyone out there that's beaten it yet as a reviewer and can actually say that. I'm not finding anything online about it, but hopefully it's going to be a money's worth kind of thing. But unless you are very much into the setting, unless you are very much into playing this kind of first-person RPG with these this word's been bouncing around over the last couple of days for some reason,
Yes.
Eurojank, which
What does that mean?
Well, I think it means it's based around the idea that there's quite a lot of European games that are sort of cult classics and have very interesting ideas mechanically, but they're not necessarily implemented perfectly.
Gotcha.
Like Mountain Blade or Stalker. Those are games that have really interesting ideas and they're clearly cult classics, but there's elements of those games that are really fucking janky.
I see.
And it's mostly European devs that come out with it. They're not super polished, but they are very interesting. So I think that term has just been picked up. I know it's been around for a good few years, but I'd definitely apply it here. There's certainly those weird systems that don't need to be there, but it's a European RPG, so they probably feel like they have to include them.
It's one of those things that I think if you went back a few years, like The Witcher 1 would be a very good example.
Oh, yeah, The
of
Witcher
that.
1 is full of Eurojank. There's no doubt about that. Up until it got to, like, The Witcher 2 and Witcher 3 polished their way out of that. But you could also argue that they may have sacrificed some of their more interesting, more esoteric mechanics and ideas in order to do it.
Right.
Well, there you go. Apparently GameStar, which is the German magazine, did beat the game, and they said they could see people putting 100 hours in, but it can be beaten in about 50. It's a good number, I don't think that's unreasonable. All right, cool. Break time then, I guess. When we come back, more about some of the games we've been playing this week. You're watching the Corptional Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Ladies, let's try that one again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
Ladies,
all
Ladies.
four of you,
Ladies.
welcome back. Knowing our usual demographics, all four of you, welcome back to the Corptional Podcast, and everybody else as well. You're cool too. We like you.
Ladies,
Yes, that'll be the time we just leave the bar. Yes, this is not going to be a night that starts or ends well. Let's just can it before we waste anybody's time.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Indeed.
Or you could stay here and we'll have somebody.
What do take me home? Yeah, we all were thinking that song. I was. I'm old. Hi.
Take me home. I always think of the
Thank
Weird
you.
Al version. Take me home.
Well,
I know who I wanna take me home. He just like sings it like he's a puppet, and it makes me laugh.
He is a puppet.
He is a puppet.
For the
That's why I connected.
for big accordion. That's right. I'm calling you out, Al. A puppet for big accordion.
Big accordion is still fairly small, but it exists.
I mean,
It
it's
is a
bigger than
thing.
small
It is
accordion,
real.
which is very small.
It's very tiny.
indeed.
Very small.
All right. Someone else throw a hat into the ring. What you got? Please say you have something.
The new Civ 6 came out.
Yes.
The Rise and Fall.
Yes, I watched you play some of that.
Holy majoli.
as well. What you got on that?
So, Civ 6, the new additions, as far as I can tell, they've now included a timeline that is of really important events that happen in your society's rise. And they all give you points. And these points are used now towards a golden age or a dark age or just like a normal age. And at the bottom now where you're like click here to end turn, where you normally just press enter or whatever, down at the bottom there's a little circle, and it goes clockwise as time goes on, and the more points you score, if you get blue, normal age. If you get gold, golden age. If you do not hit like a complete blue circle, you enter a dark age. And this literally is just by completing certain achievements or building a certain unit or winning an epic battle or keeping barbarians from destroying your shit. Like, there are many things you can do to earn it. And then over time, as you enter a new age, you can select sort of the path you want to take, trading, or you want to focus on building certain things. And I experienced the entire breadth and depth of this. I played as the Aztecs. And at the beginning, the first round, I just had a normal. I managed to get up to blue and was like, okay, cool. I just think I decided to do trading because I was doing a lot of like trading, whatever those guys are called, traders, whatever they're called in this game specifically. Sure. And so I had a bunch of trading units going back and forth, and I was building up my army, and I was like, I'm ready to attack. So next time, I'm gonna go crazy on people. So I went out and I started dominating different nations and fighting off barbarians, and I hit a golden age. I was like, oh my God, when you hit a golden age, now you have even better options of what to do for the next age of your civilization. And the different age demarcations are exactly where they are when you age up normally. So it's, Bronze Age, and then like medieval age, like bronze, classical, medieval, like that kind of stuff.
Renaissance, etc. Yeah.
And so as time goes on, you get to here's the thing I don't know, because in the scientific screen, it still has scientific and cultural and all those things. It still has the bottom like bar that shows you where you are in relation to every other nation. And I'm loving that rhymed. But the game itself tells you like, hey, there's a countdown of 6 turns, 8 turns, or whatever, like 4 turns until you hit the next age. And I don't know if that's just you or if it's the entire world together moves on together. And I wasn't sure. I think it might be just you, and it gives you a warning of like,
it's just you. Yeah,
I think it might be just you. It gives you a warning of like, you have 4 turns before the next stage, so you better do something important if you want to get, a gold.
Well, actually, as I say that, with the footage on the screen, it literally says the world has entered. So I guess it's a weird thing where it is sort of everybody, but you could still be behind. And that's kind of, that's a problem. The real world. Yeah, that's a problem in and of itself. That probably results in the
entire world,
entering a dark age. If you've been dragging ass. The first 2 times that I tried to play it, I hit the first era change, I hit a dark age both times. Damn. Because my early game just wasn't up to par, I guess. I wasn't doing enough. I didn't achieve enough things. I was too far behind in many ways. So I hit dark age, and that's not necessarily as bad as it sounds.
Well, it can be. Like the dark age gives you negative effects and negative. So I was in a golden age, and I launched a war against France. The great Aztec-French War. And of course. I went after France, and I was in the middle of this battle, but I realized I was so focused on war that whatever I had chosen for my golden age was not what I was doing.
You were neglecting it completely, yeah.
Yes, and so I was in the middle of the golden age and got shot down to a dark age while in the middle of a war. Dark age comes up. Every place that I had taken over from France, and also many of my own territories, the dark age basically means like loyalty to your people and or the loyalty to you as a government and all that stuff declines.
Yeah, so now that in itself is a new mechanic, by the way, loyalty.
Yeah, so now I have cities in open rebellion. There's little like fists on some cities, and it gives you a ticker of like, in 6 turns, this city will be in a rebellion. So you're like, oh my God. So now they have a governor mechanic, and so you can, I think there are 7 total governors.
Yeah, you
I
can have.
think.
Yeah, you can have
Yeah,
7
I
governors.
saw that.
And so the governors each have different, like one governor is a religious-based governor and one is a military-based governor, and they all have different things, and you can upgrade them much like you would a military unit over time. And so now you're like, oh, fuck, move all the governors to the front, put them in those cities. We have to clamp down on this rebellion, but governors to move them, much like everything else in this game, takes time. So now you're on a, like, you're running against the clock, and you're just like, oh, God, I'm going to fuck up again. It is Dark Ages. I can see how if you were just, like, going like a cultural society, a society where you're just trying to like influence others, or a religious-based society, you might be able to like cruise through a dark age no problem. Because other than the war and the like people bitching and moaning that I was destroying their families and friends, everything else seemed fine. And so I'm very curious like how dark ages affect different nations. But yeah, I hit a dark age, the Aztec dark age of like the 1860s, and was like, fine. But then one of the things I learned when you finally hit the modern age, is it modern or future? Whatever the last age is, when you finally hit that age, whatever you're on is whatever you have for the rest of the game. So the like hard objective is to hit a golden age, so you get 2 bonuses moving into the end game. And I hit like a normal age and was just like, I'm fine. At least I'm not in a dark age. I'm good. But I can imagine if you hit a dark age at the very end, that would be rough. That'd be a real rough way to go. Yeah.
Could be.
I know that this is, I think, going back to a conversation we had a while ago with Civ 6, but is the art style that I'm seeing in this the art style that everybody hated at first?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think
thought
it looks
too
so
cartoony.
good. It looks so good, though.
Well, they
I
have
agree.
updated it somewhat. The expansion does add some really nice effects and things like that, but there were complaints that it was a little too cartoony. Some people are even saying, "Oh, this looks like a mobile game," which is a really weird criticism. But some people didn't like it. No.
God, the animations on like all of the different characters and stuff are so fluid. Like it looks really good, I think.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I think in the past they tried to make it very like, this is the realism, but I like the idea that every character is sort of like cartoony, but they focus on aspects of them that make them like the historical character, right?
Okay.
So like Gilgamesh is this big buff dude, right? And he has this giant, like it looks like what you would imagine the painting of Gilgamesh to be, right? Or
if Disney was going to make a movie about them.
Yes, exactly. Or I love the way they do Teddy Roosevelt. Now he just looks like an old Rough Rider, but in a suit. I think it's phenomenal. I think the designs in the game are great. People are bitching because that's what people do, is they bitch.
Well, it's personal preference. Now, ultimately, some people would have liked a more realistic art style, and some people didn't. So, here's what is. Yeah. There's not a lot you can really do about that.
Gameplay-wise, I think there's some moments of one of the things they add to the game is they have emergencies now, and you and several other players in the game can join in on an emergency. And there's some, like one of the ones I had was like, I can't let Mecca fall to Frederick's religious influence. So if I joined in on that, I get tons and tons of bonuses if I had done that. But if it fails and I join in, I lose a bunch. So you're like sort of gambling with something. And I'm interested to see how it plays out, because for me, most of the time I was at war with everyone. So I was like, why the hell would I side with these people? And I just ignored them. But I think if I was going something, because I was a monarchy and then I became a fascist. I imagine if I was doing like a democracy, or if I was going down a different path, especially like one of the trade heavy governments, I would definitely 100% be in on that stuff. And I'm interested in how that works too. But it also seemed like a lot of bullshit busy work popping up in the middle of what you're doing, because now it's like, I know you were trying to build this world wonder, but on the other side of the world, someone's trying to invade this city, and if you can stop them in 20 turns, you win, like a bunch of money. And so I'm not sure exactly what that mechanic is going to do in the long run, but it was interesting. It was cool.
I think it's trying to encourage the use of the new alliance system. They updated alliances and diplomacy so that they're much more powerful now. They automatically grant things like open borders and defensive pact and everything, all the good shit. But if you maintain them, they level up. So
Right.
you have to actively maintain them, as I fucking discovered. I lost my alliance with America because I forgot to contact them to renew it. So we'll make that mistake again. But
Yeah.
the more that you maintain that alliance, the longer it lasts, the more bonuses you get, and it becomes super powerful. So I think the game is encouraging you to build alliances, and those emergencies in particular in the later game sort of result in power blocks going at each other. And a kind of world war scenario. That, the amount of people that get pulled into conflicts, especially city-states, whenever there is one, can get pretty ridiculous. There was a fight between two civs and like 14 city-states and the 5 allied civs as well, and it just became a huge clusterfuck. And I think the purpose of emergencies in particular is to encourage those alliances and try and get you to really focus on building them. That's my impression of them at any rate. They're a weird mechanic, because I don't know how they're triggered yet. I don't understand what exactly causes them to happen.
There is one of the things I noticed as well, and this is the problem I had with original vanilla Civ 6, is that early game and mid game, if you so much as did one thing another nation didn't like, they were like, we declare war. It's like,
we're all over you, yeah.
Yeah,
The AI,
and the problem was you were always way more advanced than them, so they just send units and they die. And it's like, this was a waste. And they'd be like, we declare peace. And you're like, okay, click. Now they're very much more likely to be like, we condemn what you're doing, we do not like what you're doing, and they'll shit on you, but they won't just send units to kill you. And I think now that's a little bit better, because I'd rather them just be like, we think you're an asshole, we don't want to trade with you, rather than now we're at war with you again. And it goes back to that alliance thing, because as they hate you, other people who may not even have met you are now like, oh, we heard about those assholes. And so when you meet them, you're already super low. Yeah, I like that more.
Yeah, it's ultimately the AI is probably still not where it needs to be. It's hard to say, because I think it becomes much more noticeable the better you are at the game, and I'm not, and I'm sure an awful lot of people are not. And even then, I find I've got to be playing on a difficulty of 6 or 7 or whatever for the game to be reasonably challenging, because anything lower than that, you can just run everybody over.
Yeah, oh yeah, I played on Prince because I just wanted to see the new Prince is middle of the road. I just want to see the new mechanics, because I never played it before. Did it on the stream. Everyone, my starting position literally was on. Basically, I was like Spain, but if Spain was all desert and also ice. It was
that sounds
terrible start.
Terrible
start. But because it was on Prince, and you would think, okay, it's Prince. It's it's fine. We're right in the middle. You can. I just shit on everyone. So yeah, I think you definitely need to go to the higher levels, like Emperor level, or whatever the highest.
Yeah, you do.
And then it becomes a real challenge. But
But then it gets to the point where there's people that really do know how to play Civ properly and actually have opening build orders and all that sort of thing, which I really don't. And they'll dominate Emperor level or God King level, which I think is 8. And then they will notice the holes in the AI more than a weaker player will.
Right.
AI is always going to be a problem with a game like that. But I think Civ 6's isn't great, and it's probably worse than some of the predecessors.
Civ 4 is still the best. What a fantastic game that was.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Civ 5 with all the expansions is a fucking damn good game as well. I don't think they're both really good. The interesting thing about this was, I was thinking, right, Civ 6 came out with probably more features than any other Civ game before it. It felt like the most complete out of the box. Had a lot of stuff going for it. But it was still flawed in many ways. And the good old argument is usually Civ isn't finished until it gets to expansions. And in most cases, that's true. Yeah. I was thinking, right, well, how much is this first expansion going to add? And the issue that I've got at the moment, and I'm sort of in my second playthrough at the moment, playing on the slightly faster speed, the 33% faster speed.
I just go online speed. I give up. I like fast games. That online speed is
Well, it lets you crack through quite a lot of games. No doubt about
it does.
that. So that's not too bad. But I think that's kind of the pace that I like. The problem that I found is that I haven't. None of the new mechanics and none of the new systems have struck me as like complete game changers yet. The Dark Age thing hasn't really affected me all that much. Like, yeah, I go into my Dark Age, and then in both games I've played, I've gone into a Heroic Age after that, and it's not been too hard to get there. Bear in mind, in Dark Age, you also get access to Dark Age policies, which are... they have a downside, but they can be very powerful. So let's say you got a decent amount of cities out. You can go for isolationism, which means you can't build any new settlers, but you get a huge bonus to inter-city domestic trade. Like a massive bonus. So if you've set up for that, you can get a lot out of that. There's one way you can get a big science boost. There's another one where you can get a huge religious boost. And they do change on era-by-era basis. I did notice that I'm in a Dark Age right now, and I've got an option for Letter of the Mark. So that's a very sort of sea-based policy that gives you a huge amount for raiding and things like that. But that seems to be their big flagship mechanic. And I'm not 100% convinced by it. Mostly because a Dark Age has never really given me a huge problem. Mostly because I haven't been warmongering at the time. You know, when you hit it, it doesn't surprise me because when you're attacking cities and when you take over cities, loyalty becomes a big problem along with war weariness. Since I wasn't really being very warlike, loyalty has never been a problem for me in any of my games.
Right.
Up to this point, because I'm not playing warlike civs. Right now I'm playing South Korea. So I'm only really doing war when someone declares war on me and then wiping the fucking floor with them. So my cities aren't really too worried. They're pretty chill about everything. They've got very high loyalty. So hitting a Dark Age doesn't really matter all that much to me.
Yeah, and it also is negated much later on when I finally hit fascism. Fascism just kills war weariness. And so at that point, no one cared that I was literally taking over my continent and just killing Sumeria and France and then attacking like everyone else who was on like the Western side. No one cared. And so, yeah, I think as time goes on, the effects of a Dark Age don't particularly hit you that hard. Although I'm very curious to see what a endgame Dark Age looks like.
Yeah, that could be a lot messier. It may just
like
be
a
because
sci-fi Dark Age. That could be interesting.
It may just be because I had a very compact Civ at the time. And, you know, I generally don't expand that much in my games of Civ. I focus a lot on a few cities. And that also means that pretty much all my cities have governors, which is a very good way of dealing with loyalty problems. Huge way of dealing with it. So if I had a much larger civilization, sure, I may have run into issues there. And people are saying that the loyalty system is a big deal because you can use it to make other people's cities go neutral and then take them over, take control of them yourself.
Yeah, rebellions can happen. If you influence other people heavily enough with both religion and your culture, they'll just be like, hey, we want to join you. And then that's a whole other thing now, because then the nation you took them from can be like, the fuck?
Yeah,
come after
you can do
cool.
that. What's nice as well is that when you get into an alliance with people, you don't get that pressure. The loyalty pressure is disabled for anyone you're within an alliance with. So I actually had issues with America early on because they'd spawned on the same continent as me. I thought, right, well, I can either fight them or we can just be friends. I'd rather just be friends. Managed to set that up. They were pretty whiny initially about you're settling too close to us. But now I have an alliance. None of that fucking matters. You know, my cities can be nice and close to theirs and we can share the space and there's no problem at all with loyalty conflicts or anything like that. So, I don't know. It may just come down to the fact that I just haven't played a game yet where one of these features has had a major effect on the way that I play.
Right.
But in and of itself, that's also a bit of an indictment of the expansion, because if you look at, say, Civ 5, where I believe the first expansion brought the full-on religion system that was unavoidable. That's something you had to engage with and really change the game in a big way. I think at that point you could say, well, Rise and Fall adds some really cool shit and makes the game better, but it doesn't dramatically change the nature of it. It's not a huge overhaul to the point where you're playing a different game at that point. And none of
still
these
the same game.
new mechanics are really they're not doing it for me as a game changer. They're nice. They're cool because I have to consider them now. But they're not dominating my thought process because I'm not really having loyalty problems or anything like that. Oh, I hit a Dark Age? Okay, that kind of sucks, but chances are I'm getting out of it with a Heroic Age, so who cares? And then I just get 50 turns of shit tons of money and loyalty and all good sorts of good stuff. It's hard to say. I think I'm just going to have to keep playing more games of it to really get a good impression of it. It's nice to have an excuse to play Civ 6 again. And I'll say that some of the new civilizations are really interesting and have some really hyper-specific ways to play them.
Yeah.
Can I admit something? As a person who never plays Civ, and the only times I have got just really confused right off the bat and then walked away from it. I assumed... I can't be the only one. I assumed that pretty much every single Civ game was exactly the same.
Oh, no.
But hearing you guys talk about them, I'm like, oh, apparently stuff like really changes from game to game typically.
Yes.
There's some stuff that is like, well, that's Civ. You can point directly to it being, that's a Civ thing. But every game, they usually change something in a massive way. With Civ 6, the major change was that up until Civ 6, cities were one square or one hex, and everything was self-contained. In Civ 6, it's broken out into, urban sprawl. You've got districts where you put certain things. Like, oh, you want a bank? Well, you need a commercial district, and that's going to take up space. Or you want to build a wonder? You can't just put 20 wonders in your city. It's like
one city, yeah.
It's like, hey, yeah, we jammed the pyramids in there, and here's the Eiffel Tower somehow in this one square. No, you need space for that. So urban planning becomes a thing. That also means that defending those things is a lot harder. You can't
especially when it comes to spies now, because spies before would just attack a city, and you'd be, all right, well, I'm going to have a spy in my city to defend against. Now it's like a spy can attack your industrial sector, or a spy can attack your amusement, who knows.
Yeah.
And so now I have to watch everything. It's interesting.
Yeah, and you've really got to think about where you place your cities as well, because everything is going to sprawl at some point, so it's you need space for that. You also need to think about, do I have the right kind of terrain to do what I want to do? Do I have, let's say you want a city where there's a big focus on religion. You want a holy site, right? Well, holy sites benefit in various ways from being placed in certain places. Particularly, you put them near a fucking mountain, they love that shit. They're big into mountains. So if you can somehow find a place on the map where that district would be surrounded as much as possible by mountains, that's amazing. But you also have to consider that that district may benefit from being adjacent to other districts and things like that. So you might want to leave space for that.
Same thing with if you're doing a research district or
oh yeah, that's particularly true with Korea that I'm playing right now. My science district, I get a special science district for being Korean, and every farm that is adjacent to it gets bonus food, and every mine that is adjacent to it generates one science. So if you've got to think, right, I'm going to plan everything in advance. I want to put this where I can get either a lot of mines around it or a lot of farms around it so I can get the maximum benefit. But I also might want to boost it up with something else and be adjacent to another district, so I've got to think about that as well. Also, you can only build it in certain places to begin with. That's particularly true with wonders as well. It's like, you want to build the pyramids? Well, guess what? Unsurprisingly, the pyramids can only be built in the fucking desert.
And only flat desert.
Only flat desert. Yeah, you can't put it on a fucking hill. Obviously.
Like, no!
You can't put it on a hill. So, you've got to plan that. I think actually a lot of Civ 6's enjoyment comes from that puzzle. That's what I really dug about it. That the puzzle of designing the perfect city layout gets maximum bonuses.
The science religion aspect of it, you're exactly right. The layout is like many science wonders and many religion wonders will occupy the same space. So now you have to okay, I have to decide. Am I going to be science or am I going to be religious based? Like, you have to make hard decisions as you go forward too, which is interesting.
Yeah, I still think I would like to see the cities be a bit more specialized. Like, I think you can put too many districts in one city, honestly. And it's too easy to grow that. Like, I'd like to see the population requirement for each district go up. That would be nice. That would be a tweakable value I'd like. So you could only really have a couple of, maybe 3 or 4 districts maximum instead of almost all of them once you reach a certain size. Because that, to me, makes the optimization puzzle and the specialization more interesting. Right. It's really cool to me to have a city where I've spent a bunch of time and planning making it the best it could be for science, or just the absolute culture monster, or a huge tourism generator, or all that kind of thing. That to me is awesome.
Right.
But, it's not like this expansion has detracted from that. Added a new district, which you can only have one of, which is your government district. And you get a bunch of special mutually exclusive buildings when you go through certain achievements for your empire that sort of memorialize those historical achievements. And I do like the fact that you can just keep tracking. The game really keeps track of what your Civ did. Yeah,
the new feature where it shows you the timeline with the drawings and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, well, there was some disagreement, but most people agree that Korea entered the industrial era when it invented this giant fucking rocket launcher or whatever, right. That kind of thing. That's nice because it gives you a bit of personality, and it helps you remember the landmarks along the way. It's a good expansion, no doubt. If you have the game and you want an excuse to play more rounds of it, it's a good buy. I just don't.
More.
Yeah. And it's not the first time that's happened either. Some Civ expansions have been like, yeah, that was good, but it didn't completely change the dynamic.
Right.
Right.
So maybe it's going to be, for Civ 6, we're going to need 2 expansions to do that. There's still a few things they could do with that. Like, they still don't have a World Council or UN kind of mechanic.
Yeah, that's true.
Previous games have had.
I was going to see one, but none ever showed up.
No, I mean, you got those emergencies, but that's not really the same thing. Previous Civ games have had a kind of United Nations style thing. Once everyone knows where everybody else is and is communicating with each other. There's nothing like that in the game. I can't remember exactly what's going on with corporations in Civ 6. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've played a game up to the point where that would be a factor. But, Civ 5, obviously, in Brave New World, had corporations were a huge factor, and that was a new feature that they'd added in and all that kind of thing. So there's room for growth. Let's just say that. But improving the AI, that's definitely the area where they should be focusing next couple of months. Just make it as good as you can. I know it's hard. It's a very complicated game. But still, the better your AI, the less people are going to complain. Especially since I think the majority of people do play Civ as a solo game, not as a multiplayer game. There's a good multiplayer community for it, and that bypasses a lot of those AI problems, but I'm not the kind of person that plays that game as a multiplayer game. It's long. Simple as that. It's a long game. You got to really commit to it.
I think I tried playing it multiplayer once with Jesse and Krendor, and
I'll never play with Krendor again.
Krender's turns were so long.
Turn 3, he went a full 2 minutes. I was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I'm min-maxing. I almost quit right then. I would have been done.
That he was deliberately trying to piss you off. There's nothing you can do turn 3 that would
Turn 3? I know. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm moving my explorers. And I'm like, what?
You only have one,
this
at
is
maximum
like the first
2.
time I had ever really sat down to play it. So Jesse was like, yeah, I play it a lot. Like, we'll help you. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
No.
And
this explains why you don't play Civ.
You're taking so long. Am I missing something?
Civ is actually a very relaxing game, generally speaking.
And
your first impression of
I
it.
will sit back and just be like,
is it because it's not real time?
Yeah, pretty much. You can play it in a window. You can have it up and take the turns at whatever speed you want.
Yeah.
That also has so much really good music in it. Generally relaxing music, with the exception of the fact that I was really enjoying, at one point, the music I was playing Zulu, and I was really enjoying that music. And then I think because America became dominant on the world stage, I got their Yankee Doodle Dandy bullshit for a good 10 minutes. I'm like, God damn it, I want my African call and response style stuff back and all that kind of thing. So sometimes you don't have control over what music's being played, but there's such a variety
the 15
of
versions of Little Baby Bumblebee are not good. I love how that's the song they chose for America.
Oh God! How much fucking
I'm like,
green sleeves and Scarborough Fair do you get for England? I mean, fucking hell, not good. But yeah, that is definitely gonna eat up more of my time, I think.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
So
don't unsub from my channel just because Dodger's dabbing. How is that fair on me? How is that fair on me, I tell you?
Oof.
Plus, you'll be missing out on the...
though. If you enjoyed that dab, you can subscribe to my channel.
God damn it.
Subscribe to TotalBiscuit's
But
channel.
you will not get the benefit that we will be introducing this week of a permanent discount from our merch store. I'm just saying. So you might not want to do that. No. No. You know there's no evidence that I'm not doing that to you right now.
I know.
I could be.
It's true.
Like
you wouldn't know. And you would have no idea.
Constantly dabbing.
Yeah, my entire show has been done that way.
You know what I found out recently? The term dabbing is also like a weed thing. Never knew.
A dab? I mean, I don't know about that.
That's quite naive. Okay.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, dabbing is definitely a drug term. There's a lot of things associated with that.
I had no idea. I thought that it was just a good old-fashioned ba-bam.
No. Also, I don't think that's really old-fashioned, really, is it?
What? Ba-bam?
Dab? The dab, in and of itself. It was only, a couple of years ago that became a thing. And unfortunately, it's still a thing.
With drugs? I'm confused
now.
Not
with drugs. No, that's been the thing for a long time with drugs.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
You take a dab, but what is a dab?
What is a dab? That's a great question. That's a
Google
question I've been asking for years. What is a dab?
What is a dab?
What is a dab or a dollop of sour cream?
Sour cream's a drug now?
Might as well be.
It is a drug. It is a drug. It might as well be.
Certainly might as well be.
So dumb.
Speaking of drugs.
Yeah.
Let's do a segue. So I found a card game.
Yes.
Half of me's been trying to avoid getting into another CCG.
Oh boy.
Especially a digital one. The other half has been like, you need to find another digital CCG.
As soon as possible.
Yes. Yeah, because you're done with Hearthstone, you're done with Plants vs. Zombies, you don't have a CCG, and that just seems like you're missing something in your life. Turns out, which they have not advertised at all, there is a Star Trek CCG that launched very recently into testing. And it's called, and I only found out about it because on the StarTrek.com website they mentioned it. They have not advertised this fucking thing anywhere. It's called Star Trek Adversaries. And I was thinking, oh dear, this is probably going to be awful. Yeah,
Right.
a lot of these online Star Trek games are like they'd done several Facebook games, and they were fucking terrible. Unsurprisingly, there was no real. I don't think anyone was expecting anything out of that. But it's like, oh, it's a CCG and it's a full-on client. You know, you download it. It's on PC. You're like, okay, all right, I'll give it a try. See what's going on. I'd looked at the screenshots and it looked pretty good. Like they had fully rendered ships and everything like that. The art seemed good. You know, obviously they were mostly using art from the show. So like, okay, I'll give it a try. And actually, it's pretty good from what I can tell so far. It's... What's the best way to describe it? So it's very much a kind of standard play things onto the board to either kill your opponent's things or hurt your opponent. You know, once your opponent goes down to 0, you're dead. But there's a couple of cool conceits around it. So, for instance, your opponent and you are in a flagship, and you're the flagship of the fleet. And once your flagship's dead, then that's the end of the game. You build your deck around a flagship, and that each of the flagships comes with 8 cards right off the bat. So those are 8 cards you will have, guaranteed. And then you build 30 cards more around it.
And are these like other ships, or are they crew?
They can be ships, they can be crew, they can be things like that. So they start you off with some random ship, and of course I immediately grabbed something fun. I'm like, I'm gonna get the original Enterprise or whatever. So I'm like, got that. And comes with those 8 cards, and each ship comes with an auxiliary power and an ultimate power. And you charge those up by doing damage or taking damage. So once you use one of those, you get to draw one of those 8 cards as well. So certain ships have different cards. You know, some will be very aggressive, some will be more based around healing your stuff. And that's sort of what your flagship is going to do. That's going to be your flagship's role, to use that energy and also draw those cards. Otherwise, you're drawing from your deck and you're playing ships on the board. You can have up to 4. And you can also, some of those ships have crew slots. And some of them can take up to 2 crew members. So you can put, you know, famous captains and everything. They've mixed everything together. So you can have fucking Captain Sisko on the regular Enterprise and, you know, put Kirk on the Enterprise D or whatever. You can do all that shit. I mean, of course they were going to do that. And crew members, they buff the ship they're on, but they also provide special abilities that are usually triggered by something. One of the more interesting things you can do in that game is you can retreat the ship. So you don't have to have a ship on the board until it explodes. You can actually retreat a ship and get refunded the cost of it instead of attacking with it. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this because it didn't fully explain the mechanic, the ship or the crew member might actually go back into your deck. So you can get that kind of thing back. And some of them have some interesting abilities. I think one of them, was Dr. Polanski from Season 2 of TNG. I had her in a ship. And it's like every time you retreat a ship, everything else gets a heal and shit like that. So you can do some pretty cool synergies depending on who you've got. You can use crew just to buff up a ship, but more often than not, you'll want to put a crew member in a position where they can create some kind of crazy combo when something happens. Other than that, it mostly plays like Hearthstone. You know, you get 1 energy per turn. You can target either the enemy hero or the enemy's ships. If a ship has Guardian, then it's like Taunt. If a ship has, you know, Core Breach, that's basically Death Rattle. If a ship has Charge, well, it's Charge. You know, it's all that kind of thing. But it's cool that everything's fully 3D rendered. You know, the ships look really good. And the crew mechanic and the retreat mechanic and everything are just a little bit different. So I might play it a bit. It already has Quark's Arena and bullshit like that in there. So I might try that out. It looks promising so far. It's also nice there are a lot of flagships right out of the gate. It's not really like a class in Hearthstone where everything's completely different. It's a bit less than that. but you have a lot of choices of them. There's Klingon ships and Federation ships, and there's like 20 of each, I think. So you can pick a lot of different stuff. Yeah, it's neat. It seems all right so far.
Cool.
Hopefully they do well with it. Nobody's playing it right now because it's not advertised anywhere. It's not on Steam.
But you said it's in beta, right? It's
it's a test right now. So they could still put it on early access on Steam. That would probably be a good idea. But then again, maybe they're avoiding Steam. I actually hope they're not, because no one will fucking play it if they don't. And even if they do, they might not anyway. Because let's be honest, CCGs, it's a pretty tough market right now.
What do you think is like, for a developer, what would be your reason that would make them say, oh, we shouldn't put this on Steam?
Main reason's money. Like, if you've got a game with microtransactions in it, Steam takes 30%. So,
damn,
if you can afford not to be on Steam for a game like that, you want to avoid it, you know?
Right.
Blizzard had a really good client with a big install base when they released Hearthstone. A lot of other games tried to go independent with Steam, but were eventually forced to go on Steam because no one was playing the game. And that wouldn't necessarily even work. Yeah, that's not the salvation necessarily. We saw, like RuneScape, the RuneScape card game, which was actually really cool. It had that Steam release. It gave it a couple of months of life, and then it just died.
Yeah.
So there's no guarantee. But I think if you can stay off Steam with a game like that, where people are buying a lot of card packs, you're going to make 30% more money.
Right.
But you're also going up against a ton more competition, too.
Yeah.
And
So-
visibility, right?
Right.
The market visibility.
Well, the visibility is a huge thing. You know, nobody knows this game's currently around right now. There's barely any results at all on
Except for 7,297 people who are
currently watching the
live.
live stream, and however many people watch the VOD. Yeah, I should have charged them for this. But
30%, everybody.
indeed, yeah, there you go. But yeah, it seems strong so far. It's hard to know with games like that, because like, do I want to start throwing money into a game that may very well be dead in a couple of months? Because we've seen these games come and go. I don't know. All I know is that you can't actually throw money at it right now because it's in test, so they just give you a bunch of free shit. So you might as well try it, because you get a bunch of free shit. Give that a shot. See if it's different enough for me to make me want to play more of it. And of course, the theme is strong. You know, obviously.
Obviously.
That helps a lot.
Obviously, it's Star Trek. Obviously.
Yeah, you know, it's like, you know, they brought out a Star Wars card game, which they have several of. And the fucking Star Wars miniatures game that's coming out at the start of next month, I think, which I'm extremely excited for. How long have we been waiting for Star Warhammer? A long fucking time is the answer.
I saw it at PAX South. It looks cool.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people playing it.
Yep, I've got my order in for a lot of miniatures. Let me just put it that way.
I didn't know that was a real game, and I thought you were making a Star Trek X Warhammer goof.
Well, we kind of are. It's called Star Wars Legion, but I'm calling it Star Warhammer. Yeah, because it's what it is. You know, it's about as similar to Warhammer as you can get. It's got a lot of different ideas behind it, but it is a army-based miniatures game.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I was about to make a joke that you said Star Wars card game. I literally have a card holder of the old Star Wars trading card game.
Oh, the really old one?
Back in the day, filled with cards. I haven't ever used it. I just got it because I wanted to collect the different cards. Now it is a burden upon my life that I don't want to ever get rid of. But at the same time, I know that I just can't collect things anymore. I'm like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, because it's probably worth nothing now.
Oh yeah,
that system will be completely dead.
Yeah, it's like Beanie Baby value. Like no one wants it. No one wants it. I just have it. I have 1,000 cards in this binder. I have every single possible card through like 2 expansions. Why? Because fuck me. I was 17 and thought it was cool.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I think I've still got a bunch of the old World of Warcraft. To be fair, there's still a pretty strong argument that game was actually better than Hearthstone in many ways.
The old WoW one? Hell yeah. That thing was great. Also gave you cards for in-game.
Yeah, it did. Well, I remember the fucking Spectral Tiger mount and how much that ended up being worth. Holy shit.
The rooster, the fact that you can, that thing I think is several $1,000s. Like it's just a chicken. You ride a chicken in WoW.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go look up how much it is on eBay. That thing was the rarest card.
Well, I mean, it's only going to get more expensive because they never reprinted them, obviously. That game stopped being produced, so there's only a limited number of those things that ever existed. Same with the Spectral Tiger. I'm trying to think what the rarest thing that I got from it was. I want to bring up a list because they had every set they released of the WoW TCG, they had 3 rare loot cards that had scratch-off codes that you could redeem in-game.
El Pollo Grande.
Pollo Grande.
Right now,
yeah, that was it. Yeah.
El Pollo Grande is the chicken mount. That thing, unscratched, is about $700.
Yeah. I'm looking at the value on, there's wowlootcards.com right now. The Heroes of Azeroth, the most expensive one, according to this, they had the Saltwater Snapjaw, which was the rideable turtle. You can get that for $150. But the Spectral Tiger, which came out 2 expansions in, $1,500.
Jesus.
There was a rocket, the X-51 Nether rocket, that people were super hyped about until they then released another version in game you could get, which devalued it completely. I'm trying to think what was on my WoW account.
The corrupted Hippogriff mount is that's one too. That's $500. Jesus.
Yeah. Disco Inferno. Yeah, I have that. I also had the Foam Sword Rack and Center of Attention, which just makes you stand on a plinth and do a pose and shine for like 5 minutes. There was some pretty cool shit, honestly, in that.
Yeah, it was a good tie-in between the game and the card game. It made people who played the game want to play the card game, or at least collect stuff to get cool things.
Well, yeah, it actually just made them gamble hundreds of dollars in the hope that they get a very valuable card, which really was not great. Let's be honest.
Or if you want, it's not the same card, but on a card. If you want to go back a few years, 2005 Murky Baby Blue Murloc Egg.
Yeah.
$3,500.
Yeah, because good luck finding one that was unscratched. That's 2005 BlizzCon loot.
Mm-hmm.
I redeemed mine.
First one.
And I've got one on my main account, which would probably up the value of that account significantly. But yeah, if someone happens to have one of those that they didn't use, it's worth a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
That was before they started giving the loot out one digitally. Yeah, because you couldn't buy the digital pack in the first couple of years because they didn't have a broadcast package. So the only people getting that loot were the people that went to BlizzCon physically, and they had physical scratch-off codes instead of it being a big package that was just added to your Battle.net account.
Yeah, I definitely gave mine to people, and now I wish I had kept them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave the Blizzard Bear because I was like, I'm never going to need this bear. That thing is not valuable.
I got that bear. Yeah.
And the murky one I gave away in the 2005 BlizzCon. I gave away all that stuff in like a contest.
Oh,
that's when we were doing like podcasts and shit. Yeah, like back in the day.
Yep.
The first couple BlizzCons I gave away everything. Now I'm like, I will keep this forever. So.
I think Blizzard gave us a few to give away on WoW Radio, and was like, we should have embezzled that, honestly, but never mind. That's what happened. God, it's crazy to think how much that became worth.
Oof. Yep, but that's the crazy thing is I think everyone's trying to go for that every time anything of like collector's value comes out. Like this could be the one that in 20 years is worth like 1,000. It never is though. 99% of the time it never is. It's trash. You've collected trash.
Yeah. So, maybe don't hoard that shit. It's not going to benefit you.
As I look down here and see this big stack of cards, like,
you're never going to do anything
terrible
with
choices.
Yep.
I would have saved that money, invested when I was 17. Boy, would I be good right now.
That was a straight up awful idea.
Mm-hmm.
Should have bought Bitcoin. Oh, well. All right, folks.
Saved it for Bitcoin.
Indeed. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll tackle some news. You're watching the Co-Optional Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-Optional Podcast for the final 45 minutes or so of the show. A little bit of news, a little bit of releases. God, there is a lot of shit this week when it comes to releases. We've been trawling, we've been trying our best, but there's not a lot of great stuff in there.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I just found the holy grail of this whole thing.
Of course you did. You know what?
I can probably guess what it is.
Of course you did.
You don't need to.
Yeah.
No, let's just save it. Don't
It's
guess
called like
now.
Cat Party 12. Cats at a party. 12.
Cats.
Oh,
And they
I
just put
mean,
the word
that-
cats in. Again.
That's a very normal thing for me to grab.
All cats.
Oh, so
Cats,
this is
cats.
not normal? Great.
All right. News. First piece of news will be perhaps good for some people and alarming for others, but one way or the other is probably not something the games industry is too happy about. A little while ago, we heard interest from a senator in Hawaii that they were not too happy with loot boxes and gambling. Specifically, they were set
a
off
whole
by
bunch of people come together.
Oh,
and be
yeah.
like, I'm a mother. I'm a gamer, etc.
all that kind of thing. Yeah, all coming together to condemn gambling because EA was a dick with Battlefront 2. So again, congratulations to EA for bringing this shit down on everybody's head. Well done. There are
Thanks, EA.
now some bills, as it turns out.
Whoops.
Yep, a pair of bills. There's House Bill 2686 and Senate Bill 3024 would prohibit the sale of any game featuring a system wherein players can purchase a randomized reward using real money to anyone younger than 21 years of age. The other bill, which is House Bill 2727 and Senate Bill 3025, which is being proposed, would require video game publishers to prominently label games containing such randomized purchase systems, as well as disclose the probability rates of receiving each loot box reward.
That's actually fascinating.
Yeah.
They'll have to disclose all of that.
Yeah, one of those has no fucking chance, by the way. And that is that's the age one. Because we've had this before. Like, we've had some very similar situations when it comes to selling games to people of a certain age and the illegality of that. We dealt with that around the Jack Thompson days, and I believe there were some fairly serious First Amendment issues surrounding that. So I don't think that stands a chance. The other one? Maybe.
I mean, honestly, I don't know that either will pass. I feel like I don't know what's gonna. I don't know. I feel like there's somewhere someone's gonna be like, "What if we gave you money instead?" You know,
You're saying that there's a video game lobby group called the ESA that might very well not want this.
Although I have no problem with the ESA. ESA, let me go to E3 this year. Thanks. Wink.
Uh-huh.
You're doing great, guys. Keep it up.
I mean, yeah, it's these are bills that are going to create situations where less people can buy games. So that's not going to be exciting for a lot of people.
Or indeed, just reduce revenue streams in general, and all of the big publishers are part of the ESA lobby group. So that includes EA. They would not be so pleased about that. You know, the 21 or that's not going to happen. Like, you would have to get past all of the First Amendment issues and things like that, you would have to actually classify loot boxes as gambling.
Yep.
In very real terms. Which
is a pain in the ass.
That's going to be a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I think some of us already agree it's gambling. Some people do not. Some people make the distinction. It's controversial as to whether it is or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other bill, prominently labeling games and forcing the disclosure of probability rates, is more likely. What will that really do? Not a fucking lot. I mean,
No. It'll
sure.
be interesting to people like us, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, disclosing probability rates, I think, should be happening anyway. I mean, they already tried to do that in China.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know some companies, including Blizzard, weaseled their way around it. That should be there by default. Like, I don't know why companies would obfuscate that other than to try and deceive their players.
Well, and also players, on the other hand, this is something, you know, all the different games where you have to loot, like, I'm trying to get a special rank 6 character or whatever, and some of those games will literally tell you the odds. Like, here's the percentage rate in which you will get this.
Yeah.
And every single time, most players are like, never tell me the odds. And they just Han Solo gif it and just keep going because you want the thing so bad that you don't care that it's going to take you $100 to do it. You just need it. And so, you know, I wonder if having rules, like, you know, saying that you need to show exactly what the rate is will do anything to anyone. Most whales are still going to buy it anyway because they don't give a shit.
I mean, it's not neither of these. Well, one of these things would severely discourage the addition of these systems, but there's no way in a million years it's getting passed. There are way too many problems with that. And the other one isn't really going to discourage anything. You know, it's a very ESRB style thing of putting a warning on the box. Well, it doesn't really matter. You know, increasingly boxes don't matter. We're heading towards a digital age for everything. Is that ever going to actually be considered by a parent buying a game for their child? Unlikely. You know, if they're not even considering the stuff that's on GTA 5
to see whether or not it's got a mature sign on it.
Yeah,
then.
They're not even going to see, you know, violence, sex acts, torture. Then simulated gambling and loot boxes is probably not high on their agenda there.
They need to do what they did with packs of cigarettes, where they put like diseased lungs on them. They need to have like an eviction notice on a game. Like, this game might contain gambling. You could lose your house. Like that. I just need that stuff. Like terrible worst case scenario things. Images on, like, just like a guy in a box. Yeah. Well, not that. That's stupid. That's stupid. That's not even. But, you know, I just think there's
ads to come back. That's all.
You wouldn't steal a car, so you wouldn't steal a movie. Yeah.
They should be forced to have things on the cover that say, think about how many of the fucking games you could have bought instead of these loot boxes.
Oh my God. GameStop or just video game stores in general should have loot box games, and then next to it, games you could buy with the money that you would save not buying this game.
Yeah, they could
it would be amazing.
They could
Another
offer like
category.
extra trade-in value for games or loot boxes. Well, I mean, GameStop already doesn't like loot boxes. Why would they? You know, it's one of those forms of revenue they have zero access to. They hate it. So they would actually be motivated to do something about it.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think GameStop is really going to be that relevant in a few years, and their relevance is waning. But yeah, they have a vested interest in not liking microtransactions and things like that. Because they don't get a cut of it. You know, they want people playing games, trading in games, buying more games. That's where they're making their money. And games where you buy microtransactions, in particular stuff which gives you like unlocks for your account and shit like that, you have this sunk cost mentality where the more you've put into it, the less willing you are to leave.
Yeah,
right.
And I think
we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, we probably all experienced it. Yeah,
that one.
Yep, Warcraft's one. League of Legends was one for me because I had so much on that account. I'm like, oh God, I shouldn't leave. Think of the money I've spent. But I'm like, I'm not having fun though. But all the money and all the stuff I've got. Hearthstone's another one. Hearthstone's a huge one. You know,
sure.
I think it was actually helpful that I knew I'd made money on that game through streaming and YouTuber to actually
walk away.
Yeah, to let me walk away. If I hadn't, if I was just a regular player, I'd probably still be throwing money at that game. But there's definitely that. You know, I've had it with a couple of mobile games. That fucking Star Wars game. Like, the amount that I've put into this, I shouldn't leave. It's like, yeah, but I'm not enjoying it.
I had to force myself to stop playing the Final Fantasy game. I had to like delete it off my phone because I was like, I'm not gonna play this. I was like, I'm not gonna play this. I'm fine. I'm not gonna. I spent more than I'd like to admit getting Cloud, because I saw Sam was trying to get Cloud too, and I was like, I'm gonna get Cloud before Sam. And at that point I was like, oh, I have a fucking problem. And so I just deleted it from, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to get out while I can. Had to delete it. So yeah, I'm not okay with, I can't go back. When I see games that are like, yeah, you have to spend money on this one, I'm like, okay, we're gonna shut this one down. Delete.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely changed the way that I look at mobile gaming in particular, and it's vastly reduced the selection of games that I'd even think about trying. Like, I just don't bother. Because I'm like, I know where this is going. I can see what's going to happen with it. So why even start? Why even waste the time starting?
Meanwhile, mobile games in general, overall, overtaking all other form of gaming. Like, it is, the amount of times that I've seen, especially in our industry, people like switching to like, hey, today we're going to talk about this mobile game that just came out. I don't blame people for that. Like, it seems, I know that on like YouTube and stuff, when you did a mobile game ad, people were like, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Now I don't know that I feel like more people are interested in like good mobile games, which sometimes include money transactions.
I mean, I'm interested in good mobile games. The problem is there aren't all that many. It's actually very hard to find them.
Well, I think if you're like, a lot of people are willing to overlook the money transaction bit and say, oh, that's a good game. We just have to like pay money for it and stuff. I think good is defined differently by different people. And so, I mean, they're popular for a reason, right? They have to be, or they wouldn't get made still.
Yeah, I have to wonder how many survive. You know, you see so many come out, and there's no way in a million years that most of those games can stay afloat. You know, the thing about, you know, we've talked about the whale idea before. Whales stick with games that are popular, and whales need that player base to actually keep it popular and make sure the game's working properly. And if that player base goes somewhere else, the whale is not going to stick around and keep spending money.
Right. They'll go someplace else. The whole idea of a whale is I have the cool shit and then beat up people. Like, that's the idea.
Sure.
And so if there's no one to beat up and there's no more cool shit to buy, what's the point of staying?
Yeah. That's absolutely the way that I would look at it.
Like real whales. Real whales, they move on. When there ain't nothing cool left, they move on to go beat up other people.
Yeah, they need more algae. I don't know about the whole beating up thing, but they do.
Oh, whales, notorious fighters.
Okay,
they go around, they travel around the world, pick fights with everyone.
I'm not much of a marine biologist, but I can't really argue with you. You might be right.
I know a few marine biologists. I'm on the coast. Like, I know it's a California thing. Whales they fight all the time. It's true.
That's fair.
It is known. Yeah.
It is known.
It's interesting we talk about this because it leads nicely into our next topic, which is Ubisoft and their admission of really loving the idea of the so-called live service. So we've heard the term games as a service quite a bit.
Right.
Well,
what
Ubisoft
is cloud gaming?
Yes. Well, Ubisoft seems to like the name live services. And there were a couple of nice little slides that they made. I think must have been during maybe a recent investor call or something along those lines, or some sort of workshop, where they're talking about what exactly they want to do in future with franchises and how they want to make money and how they want to keep people in that game. And comparing this whole idea of what games used to be in the past to what games should be in the future. And there was one particular slide that I found quite interesting. And it was a list of the way that the industry used to work in the past, according to them. I can't put the slides up. I don't have a way to do that right now. And how it should work now under the live service model. So I'll read them out. Initially, they said, look, games industry was hit-driven and a cyclical business, meaning that you made a game, you released it, you hoped it was a hit, you moved on to the next game. Either the sequel or something else. Now, they're claiming with live services that games are a recurring revenue business. So you put the game out there and you expect it to continually make money over a number of years. And the way it's going to do that is by keeping players hooked in, keeping them online, keeping them buying things for their account, and making sure that they become invested in that. And that leads on to the second part of it, whereby they said previously games had low user engagement, and now we're looking for high user engagement. So we're looking for players to come back every fucking day. You know, we're looking for the MMO attitude of you log in every day. In the past, games were console-focused, now multi-platform businesses. So not only PC, but also, of course, mobile devices. In the past, games were developer-centric, and now they're player-centric. I don't know what the fuck that means. That's a very meaningless thing to say. But also the next part, game experience versus platform experience. I don't really understand what that means. And last but by no means least, which I think is the most relevant part of the slide, it used to be focused on number of games sold. Now it's lifetime value. The amount of money that you can get from a single person over the course of their lifetime in the game. And you're hoping that that lifetime in the game is going to be pretty damn lengthy. So they want games that you play for a very, very long time. They want games that you're continually spending money on.
And that's been something that companies have tried to figure out the magic formula to for years.
Yeah. It's very true. And more often than not, it doesn't necessarily work. But when it does, it makes a shit ton of money, right? You know, League of Legends and Dota and CSGO, games that have large user bases that are continually spending money in those games are making money hand over fist. Games like Hearthstone, they're making money hand over fist. And these are games where the players are expecting continual development, like new content all the time, reasons to come back, a new tavern brawl every week, new quests every day, so they want you logging in every day to make sure that you're there. You know, games like Destiny, they're the same. But those games, they're also pretty huge time vampires. Like, they're sucking up, they're designed to engage a player to the point where they're going to spend a lot of money. And in order to do that, you've got to get them playing for a large number of hours.
Right.
Thing is that, the more of this that we see, the worse this is going to get, because you only have a finite number of these hardcore gamers that will play games like this, and they only have a certain number of hours in the day. So how many of these games will they realistically buy and spend money in? And what will be more worrying to me as Ubisoft is, will the game they choose as their game to really invest in be one of ours? Because if it's not, well, our old model of trying to sell you hey, we've got a new game out and we're releasing a new game every couple of months. Well, I'm going to turn around and say, well, I've got a game and I'm keep throwing money at that game. I have a game and that's the game I play. And it's not like those people don't exist. Millions of people like that exist that just play League, or they just play World of Tanks. There are huge numbers of people like that. And they just won't play any other games.
Like, and going back to that idea of like the live services and keeping people on and active and like constantly playing. I'm looking at the numbers right now for EA. And so in the third quarter, they posted a $200 million loss. But what that is that's just them paying taxes. As of February 2nd, they were up 10% in stocks. And it turns out that live services grew 40% for about $800 million. So literally every bad thing people are like, EA, you suck. Battlefront 2 is terrible. And we're not going to buy it. It doesn't matter because EA as a whole, the entire live services industry they're creating is constantly generating the money. So you can hate on one game, but every other game they have is like, money.
Well, yeah, their sports games all have live service elements heavily integrated into them. and those live service elements are money services. In particular, in the case of Ultimate Team, they're gambling. The new UFC game now has that. FIFA has it. Pretty much all the other sports games that EA do now have that. They have tried to put it into their other games. Obviously, they got shoved back on Battlefront. They'll try again. And of course, right now they're looking at Anthem. And they're looking at that as being hopefully their big live service Destiny competing game.
The more they show that game, the more I'm like, this is going to be microtransaction city. I am terrified because the concept looks cool. I guarantee you can buy everything in that game. I'm waiting for it to happen.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
Right.
They're investing so much in it. If you think about it, how could it be anything else? The amount of money they're putting into Anthem, how many of those games would you have to sell in the traditional way?
Oh man, you're absolutely right. I was just looking this up and I deleted it, or I closed the window because I didn't think we were going to talk about it. But straight up, EA did a press conference, a Q3 press conference, where they were like, hey, yeah, so people are asking about Battlefront and what was going on with that. Literally, they said they brought 3 studios together. They put a lot of money into it. And their whole idea was like, we want to make this game for Star Wars fans. And so their rationale behind all of it was like, well, then we can charge extra for this, this, and this because we put all this money into these studios. So, of course, the more money they're going to throw at a thing, especially with Anthem, the more they're going to want their return. And so, of course, they're going to put stuff in it. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
They're building a game that they imagine is probably going to last 5+ years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're hoping that people will play it for that long.
Yeah.
And will keep putting money into it. And the more money they put into it, the less likely they are to leave. And particularly with games like that, if we go back to WoW and think about what we're talking about with that sunk cost idea, and how many times you didn't leave WoW because of the amount of time you'd invested in it, but then the additional pressure of your friends saying, please don't leave, who also are in a similar situation. With Anthem, if they get their social features right, which is something that I think they failed with
Destiny does not
2.
have. Destiny has shitty social features.
Which is pretty stupid of them. Because that keeps people playing. That's why there's such a big drop-off with people playing Destiny. I don't think EA is going to make the same mistake. They're going to make sure, because they know that the power of peer pressure is potent. It's a very powerful way of keeping people playing their game. And the more you keep people in the game, the more likely they are to eventually spend money on part of it. And we don't know exactly how Anthem's business model is going to work. Is it going to work in a similar way to Destiny's when it comes to expansion content, where you buy the expansions? Or are they going to be purely reliant on microtransactions? If they're purely reliant on microtransactions, I expect the MTX to be incredibly aggressive. At least with Destiny, they have that revenue stream of being able to sell, every X number of months a huge content pack to people that you basically need in order to keep going.
Right.
So that model works for them. It's basically a subscription. Let's call it what it is. It would have been a $15 a month subscription. As it stands, with the first Destiny pack, it was $30 after the first 2 months for a content pack that you needed in order to progress.
Yeah, I feel like just every vibe I get is Anthem is like it seems like if I was in committee, it's like the camel of like video games, like a committee designed video game where they're like, how are we gonna latch onto this idea that people love, and let's take this, and then we need to make money this way. I'm terrified that this game is going to be just a mess and kill a studio, because it has the potential to be great, but also has the potential to let everyone down. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if it even works with core gamers.
Right,
because
in
many ways it hasn't.
So far is like, what is this game?
Yeah. I mean, there's a big pushback against what Destiny 2 is doing. There was a huge pushback against what Battlefront did. I don't know what Anthem's going to do, but it wouldn't surprise me if they run into a similar situation with that.
Look, I'm my fear is that this is the game that's just going to kill BioWare. And like every other EA studio, they're like, we're going to shut it down and move everyone else to other places, which I'm terrified because BioWare, for what it's worth, like there's still like a little love there that I have for them that I want them to like hit a home run and make a fantastic game. I'm terrified this is not going to be
I don't wish failure on them.
Right, absolutely.
We would. But yeah, there's just this obsession with making a game that's going to run and constantly make money, this recurring revenue business, the term that they use, the high user engagement, that obsession, instead of just spend X amount of money to make a game, release it, make Y amount of money, hopefully make profit. If it's successful, work on a sequel, make a franchise out of it. If it's not, move on to something else. My fear as well is it just means we get less games from those studios and those big publishers and less interesting games. Because
from
they
big
just...
publishers, sure. But I think we've talked about this, like the mid-range, the like AA or like just like the lower, those people now have the potential to be the next big thing and to create things that really inspire. Because AAA is all about making money now. Like, I mean, it was before, but now it's blatantly obvious.
It's making money all the time. You know?
Right.
It's not okay to just sell a game anymore. You have to, 2 or 3 years down the line, still have access to this person's wallet. Mm-hmm. Which, back in the day, wouldn't be the case unless you were running an MMO.
Yeah. And I think as people... I'm very curious as older gamers age up and younger gamers come into the fold, what sort of the vibe's going to be, because I keep feeling that all the like 25, 26, 27, 30 plus gamers are like tired of all the like be online all the time to do this shit. No, I don't got time for this.
Yeah.
Right?
We definitely are. And I mean, the time thing is the biggest thing. You know, people of that age, we can't sit there for 12 hours a day playing this. We got shit to do. We got real life shit to do.
Right.
Yeah.
The younger generation, sure, especially if it's mobile based, you know, where you could do it pretty much anywhere. Yeah, to some extent, but I do wonder where, you know, what they're playing and where their money is going. And I'm talking about the core audience, you know, not necessarily the more casual audience. We know where the sports game fan audience is going. We know in many ways where the housewife audience is going and all that sort of thing. But I am interested in that core gamer demographic that is a lot younger as to what they're currently playing and where their money is going to end up going when they hit the point where they actually have money to spend.
Right.
No, because I don't think like a 14-year-old gamer isn't really of much value to any of these publishers. You know, they don't have a credit card. So unless they're taking money from their parents, you can't get access to their cash. They don't really have any disposable income. But in a few years, they'll have a job or some form of income, and then where will they choose to spend that within the game space?
I'm curious if this is one of those things where as a company you see it as get the money we can get now, because in the future things will change. Because I keep thinking about young kids and the games they play and how drastically different they are than some of the games that are being released by companies. Like a lot of people just play Minecraft and like just like the idea of building stuff and creating things, and they have very little limitations put on them depending on the platform they're playing on. They can just like goof around and do whatever. A lot of young kids will play mobile games, but they will definitely not buy things. They will just play it and then they'll get really bored with it and move on. And so I'm curious if 5 years from now, those 7, 8-year-olds move up to the, like, now we're ready to play on some cool consoles and shit. If they're just gonna be like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, this game that you've created doesn't let me create. And so I'm interested. I'm interested in what time will do to the games industry.
It's also intriguing to me that, as you were saying, that the younger kids, they'll play these mobile games, but they won't spend money on them. That by the time they are ready to spend money, they're already wise to this con.
Yeah.
They're already like, you know what? we've already seen this shit on mobile. Like, we know what you're trying to do, and it was bullshit then, and it's kind of bullshit now.
I was actually thinking about
play
that.
something else.
Yeah, that like kids that grow up seeing the same thing over and over and over again, like they know how to recognize it. Like they won't get duped as easily as adults who never dealt with that do.
Yeah. That's why the EA backlash was huge, because when people started playing Battlefront, it was just like in beta, people were like, no, don't launch with this. We are not okay. And that was across the board. It wasn't just like a few people complaining. It was everyone was like, this is wrong. We can see through this. We know what this is. And so, I'm fine with, I don't think that we need a law. I just think if we have consumers who are like, hey, this is shit more often,
yeah,
things might actually work out for the better.
Yeah, I don't think that all of these companies going to the live service model is going to work, because there's just a very limited number of games that can be hugely, wildly successful in these genres. We've seen, MOBA, for instance. We saw League of Legends, Dota, and to a lesser extent Smite and Heroes of the Storm. They're really the only successful MOBAs. EA tried to get in there with Dawngate. It was a great game. It didn't even release, didn't even get out of testing. It failed, and it was never going to succeed, realistically. And every now and again, a genre will pop up and think, oh, I want to be the guy that gets the game that is played for 5+ years in this genre and is king of this genre. Right now, that's Battle Royale. There'll be a few other games like that. And of course, there are still people trying to be the king of the Destiny genre, the looter shooter genre. And you could argue that even Destiny isn't the king of that genre right now. No game has truly succeeded in getting there. But the reality is the vast majority of these games are going to fail to do that.
Right.
And if you set that expectation and you throw so much money at it that you have to have people playing for years in order to get the money back, that model is unsustainable. It's going to crowd the market. People don't have time for that shit. And hopefully that means we just cycle back to a more traditional style of game development. Hopefully a bit more of a conservative style of game development, something that just makes sense. Make a game for a decent amount of money. Don't overdo it. Release it, sell it, make some money off it, make a profit, make a sequel, go from there. Maybe that's what ends up happening. Because I really don't see everything going to live service models. I don't see how you could possibly sustain it.
If everything was live service, literally every day you'd be like, okay, today my chores are, and then you have to log in. And like, that's insane. Oh my God. No. Pass.
No, people are not going to have that kind of time. And like you said, we're sick of that shit at our age. And I wonder if the generation coming up behind us is savvy to that shit. I'm hoping they are. I hope so. If not, well, at least we got indies. Lots and lots of indies. Lots of very good indies.
Right.
So, let's not doomsay too much on that. I read shit like, this is why everything has microtransactions. No, everything doesn't.
Dead.
Yeah, everything does not. The minority of games have that. There are a shit ton of really good games. They're just not where you're looking.
Yeah,
so
man. Indie games always.
Yeah. But it's a pixels and shut up. Yeah. Shut up. Just get some perspective and widen your horizons a little bit. There's plenty of great games out there. Most of them, however, are not on today's release list, as much as I would like to say otherwise. Oh, man. Yeah, the releases this week are looking a little grim, I have to say. That's quite sad.
They're not great, but that's okay. We found some stuff.
Yeah.
There's a little bit. Let's just say that. There is.
Just a smidge of dupe.
Just a smidge is how I would.
Just a dab.
No.
Just a dab.
Just how I would describe it. So today, of course, we got Kingdom Come Deliverance for
Right, of course.
full price. You know, that was the game we were talking about earlier, which a lot of people are currently saying hold off on right now. Just wait. Also, I don't know what the hell happened to my window. Different button, maybe? Yes. That one is much better. There we go. Just wait. Some performance problems, some jank, some bugs. Maybe be a bit patient on it.
Okay.
Let's see. You got Moon Bullet.
Oh yeah, Moon Bullet.
Which is?
It's a side-scrolling. It's a 2D side-scrolling shooter. That has like some survival-y elements. Mostly, you're just like trying not to die to zombies, but you have to manage like your ammo and your hunger and all that stuff. So it's got little survival-y bits to it.
Okay. It's a cool little idea.
Mm.
Jesse, the latest in a series that you love, but according to many people this time around, is fucking awful.
Everyone sent me a link to like a Jim Sterling video where he's shitting on it.
Well, I mean, he loves
it.
Dynasty Warriors. He loves Dynasty Warriors, man.
I have not played it yet. I couldn't tell you what it's like. I know a lot of the complaints were that it's shit on PlayStation 4 normal. I have a PlayStation 4 Pro. I guess we'll find out when I play it tomorrow.
Apparently, it's dropping below 30 on Pro on the performance mode as well.
Yeah, we'll see. I definitely know there's a problem because on the Twitter account, the official Twitter account, there's literally a thing that's like, "Thank you for bearing with us as we like create a patch to fix this." So there's obviously an issue. I just haven't touched it yet. I woke up late today, and so I haven't actually played it.
I'm definitely curious, because one of Jim's main problems was that they've done this big open world thing, and it's got nothing in it.
I was convinced that was going to be the case anyway. I expected when they were like, it's Dynasty Warriors, but open world, I was like, so it's going to be like you run between places, but there's not much actually happening. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see. I just want it to be as silly and over the top as it always is. If that happens, I'll be fine. But
I'm intrigued. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on it next week. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll trust me. I'll put in way too much time playing that game.
Good. We've got something that you chose here as well. The longest 5 minutes.
Yes. So longest 5 minutes is a game where you start at the final boss. It's the very last boss. You start there, and then you lose everything. You lose your memories. You lose all the names of your abilities. You literally forget everything about your life, and you can't remember why you're there and why you're fighting to save whatever it is you're doing. And you don't even know what you're trying to do. And so the rest of it becomes you flashing back, trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this story. I think it's like a really, really great idea.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and so it's the concept of you like trying to relive everything and collect everything to go back to the 5 minutes of you in the final battle. That's sort of the premise.
That's interesting. It's giving me that half-minute hero vibe.
Yeah. And it's done in a nostalgia RPG fashion with like flashbacking powers. So like you have the power to literally just rewind time and figure out new things and learn new aspects of like the story. So there's multiple paths. And I'm super interested. I truly already have the like Coxtradamus view of like, oh my God, you're going to get there and you're the bad guy. I want that so badly. I can't wait. I'm really excited for this game. I think it's very cool.
Awesome. Something that also looks really cool, which I forgot about, but I have remembered, so it's all good. Published by Devolver Digital, Crossing Souls. So that popped up today, and apparently it's a huge mixture of different game genres, all kind of set in the 1980s. Like, it's just unashamedly 80s. And you can play, I think it's mostly side-scrolling, but there's little bits of like every game you've ever played from the 80s and 90s in there. And you can switch characters and things like that. There's brawlers in there. There's platforming elements. There's a racing game in there. There's an RPG in there. It looks wild. It looks absolutely nuts. That's coming out on PC today as well as on console, PS4 specifically. So I am intrigued by that. Speaking of console, if you got yourself a Switch or PS4, Xbox One, Owlboy is coming out today.
Hell yeah, Owlboy's great.
Oh boy, is a great game.
Indeed. I think that's about it for today. Moving on. Jesse, what is this?
Speed Dating for Ghosts.
Okay.
Speed Dating for Ghosts is a game that is written by one of the BioWare Dragon Age guys and his indie rapper buddy. And it literally is a speed dating game where you date like bizarre, weird ghost things. And you are just trying to find like the right ghost for you. And it looks incredibly weird and incredibly fun. And it's basically like just quirky characters, and you have to like each one of them has their own sort of like weird twisted thing about them that's keeping them on the earth. Like one is there because he's seeking vengeance, and one is there because he's filled with despair, and one's like this ghost that's just like a poltergeist for mischief. And I think, I don't know this, but I think maybe that I1 is like you free the ghost kind of deal.
Okay.
I'm interested in what this is. It comes out on Valentine's Day. It's probably going to be a game that I stream because it looks really ridiculous, and I am super into it.
Ridiculous it does look. Dodger, Roguemance.
Yeah, Jesse actually saw this first, and he was like, "I'm gonna let you have this because it's you." It's a roguelite where you're trying to date people. So all of the like little battles that happen are 2D, and you're trying to like have successful dates and find people that you click with. And I guess there's co-op in it too. I don't know if it's like you're attempting to get a date faster than the other person or something like that.
I think you work together. Like it's a couple thing. Like the two of you work together to fight off all these monsters and stuff.
Gotcha.
It's cute.
Yeah,
It is an odd-looking thing indeed, but interesting. February 15th.
Oh, Box Cat.
God damn it.
Okay.
It's a little adventure game where you're a cat in a box.
That's
you're
it.
like the snake of cats.
You are a cat in a box. I mean,
What do you mean?
You know, from Metal Gear.
Solid
You get some
Snake.
boxes.
Oh, I see.
You're
I thought you meant like the snake game where you like eat other
No. I meant Metal Gear.
bigger snake. and I
I'm
was-
sorry. I should have said Solid Snake. I'm sorry. I'm so
okay.
sorry.
It's
I
okay.
failed. I failed in the
It's-
gaming community.
Okay.
It's fine.
So the box can be used to attack enemies and also let you get over spikes and stuff. Okay, I was like, why is this cat in the box? Other than the usual reasons. Well, apparently
I don't question that shit anymore.
you can use it. You can use it for different purposes. So it is an actual mechanic and not just cat bullshit.
The other game for this day that I grabbed is 5 Keys to Exit. It's like a very text-based game where it's, I guess, plays like an escape room. A mighty sorcerer has cursed your land, but you're trapped inside your own home. So you have to like get 5 keys, but it looks like it's entirely text-based. And I was like, that's interesting. I wonder how it goes.
Yeah, sort of this weird little interface. Huh, okay. Potentially intriguing. Jesse,
Yo,
this is a familiar sounding name.
February 15th, Secret of Mana comes
It's a
to
remake.
Steam. It is the remake. It is the updated graphics and everything. Secret of Mana, for those of you who are not an old fart, is widely regarded as, along with Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, is like the pinnacle of Square Enix. Well, actually, Squaresoft back in the day when Squaresoft was just itself, like 94 to 96, when they were just like nailing it. This is considered one of the greatest RPGs of all time.
Yeah, it's
I do not know what the remake will be like. What I played, I found a few things where I was like, there's voice acting now. I don't know that I'm a fan of that, but the game itself it's still one of the greatest RPGs ever. So maybe you can turn off the voices. Who knows?
Or at least set them to Japanese or something so you can't understand the nonsense. It's like bad delivery doesn't matter when it's in Japanese. Isn't that great? Until you watch too much anime, and then I guess it does become a problem.
And that, look, it's not an always sort of a situation.
Not a sure thing.
Yeah.
Good to know. That's about it. February 15th. February 16th. This is...
Yeah, so the game I picked for February 16th is because Dodger earlier in the podcast said, and I quote, I really want to go hiking. I haven't been able to go hiking. So somehow the gods have gifted us Hiking Simulator 2018.
God damn it.
It's
Dodger,
true.
this is for you.
Thank you
It's
very
a
much. I can't wait
Literal
to
walking
in the virtual
simulator.
world.
It is a legitimate walking simulator up in the mountains. You're welcome.
Yep.
In the snowy mountains.
With both cute and dangerous animals.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's for you. Now you don't even have to move your legs.
There you go.
Well, the next game is going to disappoint everybody. It's
Yeah.
called the Chronicles of Narnia.
It definitely disappointed me. I was hoping you would just avoid it because it's obviously terrible, but no.
No, of course
The
not.
cats look
Like,
cute. The cats look
almost-
cute. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, so many of these cats are anime references. It's incredible. I
One
was
of them
like,
is one of them is Aerith. So
yeah,
I mean,
there's
that's the thing too.
an Aerith cat. There's like Naruto cats in here. I'm very excited about it. So
God damn it, Dodger.
what?
God damn
What?
you.
What?
Just click the next one.
This is the one that I said was really the opus of this whole thing. So there's
What
a
are
VR
you
game.
doing to me?
There's a VR game called Elven Love. It's literally a game where you can either have a light elf or a dark elf, and you pose them. Here's
Oh
one
my
of the
God.
things. This is all in VR, by the way. So you pose them in VR.
Why?
Learn to use powerful wands to pose the elves, move them, or purify and mark their bodies
The
With
fuck?
sacred oil.
with sacred
Thank you.
oils.
Yeah, don't forget the sacred oils part.
I'm sorry. It's also in a unique mystical fantasy
Can we also
atmosphere.
talk about how, I don't know unique is the right word. Can we talk about how the light elves are definitely in Quel'Thalas and the dark elves are on Teldrassil? This is literally just Warcraft. This is blatant, like, do you want to fuck your character? You can do it now. That's what this is. That's what this is.
This just seems like one of those mods you can get for Skyrim.
But in
Yeah.
VR,
But in VR?
Ugh, dear Lord. Just awful.
yay, games.
Well, good news, at least for the Switch, Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. Yes, February 16th. And it was also announced today, I believe, that Bayonetta 3 development has officially begun. So good shit going on with that. But yeah,
Cool.
first and second Bayonetta games. That's great news, particularly for the vast majority of people that did not own a Wii U to play the second game.
Yeah. Buy one, buy number two, you get number one free.
Yeah. I hope they run well. I really do. The ones that were on the Wii U ran pretty damn great. Hopefully they do well on the Switch as well. And also, out of fucking nowhere,
Yeah, right?
yeah, comes Faye. How we doing this? What are we calling it?
I think it was pronounced Faye. Like no,
yes.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know
Fair.
how we decide to
Whatever it
pronounce
is, yeah, this one's actually not on Steam because it's one of those Origin EA originals. So I think if you want it on PC, you got to buy it on Origin, from what I can
Gotcha.
tell. But who knows? It could be a search problem because it's only 2 fucking letters. But it is here. After God knows how long, Nintendo Switch,
E3
PC, and PS4.
Yeah, the cute E3 game that everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's the new indie." Yeah, this looks really cool. I just, it's awkward shitting on EA for 40 minutes and then being like, "Hey, new EA game." So
To be fair, it was mostly Ubisoft we're yelling at. So, but yeah, this is one of those times when it's like, hey, we found a dev and we got them and we helped them a bit, and then we didn't completely destroy them and their soul.
that comes later once their
Yeah.
success.
I don't know. I don't know how many if any of those that have worked with EA have actually been destroyed, but one way or the other, yeah, that game is finally coming out, which is interesting. Also, Joe Dever's Lone Wolf is coming to Switch, which is an interesting series of game books that some people might remember, especially if you're in the UK. The video game adaptation of those on other platforms was pretty good, so it might be worth looking at the Switch version as well, especially if you are into choose your own adventures.
Sure.
And pretty much the last one on this list that we have right here, Dodger, you found us In Darkness.
In Darkness. Yeah. This is literally, look, there were like 3 days where nothing looked good. This is the
Yeah, there
only
was
thing that
nothing.
looked like I had
Yeah.
promise. In Darkness is a game where you play as like a little gremlin creature, and it's basically like a dungeon crawler, but it's in 3D. It doesn't look great,
No.
but maybe it's got something interesting about it. I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't look as bad as everything else that we didn't mention, so sure.
It's very true.
Why not? Yeah, so that's it for this week, basically. Major releases. You're going to have a good time if you have a Switch, let me put it that way. Otherwise, of course, Kingdom Come, and keep an eye out for Fair and the release of the Secret of Mana remake. That's what you got this week. That's all you're getting. That's all you deserve.
You're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There may be something we missed, but hopefully not.
Doesn't seem like it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I
Jeff
don't see anything else on here that
every
looks.
single game, and we were like, these all they exist.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like one next week called "Oh My God, Look at This Night" in all caps. But I'm like, yeah, no, maybe not.
Oh my God! Look at this night.
Wow.
Yeah,
be a
it's like,
classic.
wow. Well, that sure is a night, as far as I can tell.
Oh my God! Look at this night.
Oh yeah, there's that Radiant Historia trilogy I think is out today as well, which is a series of. Actually, hang on a minute. Am I thinking of the same thing here? I need to make sure I don't fuck this up. Hang on. Radiant Historia chronology. It's an RPG of some description. That's out today. I think that's just a 3DS release, though. I'm not sure if it's on Switch or not. Yeah. I don't know much about it, I gotta be honest. So, I'm not. It's a remake, I believe, of Radiant Historia from back in the day. Yeah. It was an old DS role-playing game that they then remade on the 3DS. Instead of, like, remaking it on the Switch, they remade it on the 3DS. Which I guess, considering its sort of nature as a fairly niche JRPG tactics game, you know, the 3DS audience in Japan is still fucking enormous. So it does make a degree of sense, but there you go. Just so strange to see a DS game being remade on the 3DS in 2018. It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah. The kids like it, I guess.
Do they?
I don't know.
Do you think that's what the kids are playing these days?
The kids could be.
They could be. We don't know. We've already admitted we don't know what
know.
the kids are playing these days. Apparently they're playing remakes of old strategy RPGs. Who fucking knew? Right. Well, we're about done for the show. Thank you very much for watching. We, of course, apologise for a lack of guests today. He will hopefully be here next week, Mr. Pyrian Flax, if he's feeling better. I certainly hope so, because, frankly, I want to talk less and have a less sore throat. Jesse, what you got coming up this week? What's going on?
So for those who are curious about Star Wars New Canon Book Club, we're recording all of our new, like 4 new episodes tonight. So more of that is coming. Get ready for us to talk about Star Wars Rebels and stuff now that we're moving on to that. Tomorrow, Dynasty Warriors 9. I'm probably going to stream that all day. So look forward to that if you are into that kind of stuff. And then on the channel, we're finishing up a bunch of other things, Scary Game Squad, all the stuff that you can expect on the YouTube channel. And that's man, all that stuff needs to get done. And then this weekend, heads up, one of my very good friends on Saturday night, one of my very good friends is coming in from out of town. He is like a really awesome chef, and so we are doing a themed dinner. We're gonna like stream him making it, and then we're just gonna like chill out. So you're not gonna have that part, but we're gonna stream him like making the dinner. And it is because the 17th is the anniversary of the game Catherine, is a Catherine themed dinner. And so he is basing it around concepts. He's basing it around concepts from the game. It's going to be awesome. He told me, and I quote, do you have a problem with me using the concept of a G-string in a dessert? And I was like, I don't know what that means. He's like, good. So who knows what he's going to create? This is going to be awesome. He's going to like do the duality. I have no idea. We're going to stream that Saturday night from my kitchen and him cooking. So get ready for that. It's going to be crazy.
Well, that is certainly a thing.
Yep.
Dodger.
I have no idea what kind of thing.
Can you top that? I doubt it.
I can't. No.
You'll be there though, so that's cool.
I will be there. I will be there, and I will eat a lot of it, and I'm very excited. Hi guys, I'm Dodger. Streaming and stuff has been like a little. Well, I've been doing them. It's just I'm a heavily pregnant, emotionally compromised lady. So
Yes.
guess what? We're not going to do anything interesting for this entire stream. But hey, if you want to come just hang out and talk about the shit, that's what I'm good at. So I'm at Dex Bonus on pretty much everything. And I have a coffee company at dodgercoffeeco.com. So
cool. I got some stuff coming up this week. I'll hopefully get a chance to have a look at Crossing Souls. I'd love to give an impression of Kingdom Come. Just bear in mind, the tutorial is 8 hours long, so it's going to take some time. I'm working on it. We'll hopefully be doing another Snark Tag episode. There's still quite a few things on our list of stuff that we want to look at. I might stream a little bit of that Star Trek card game as well. That's entirely possible. Hopefully some cool announcements this week regarding an upcoming sponsored series, which will involve some certain old games, perhaps. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And also...
Can I guess? Can I take a guess?
You can try.
Command and Conquer.
No.
Shit. I just really
that's you out of ideas.
Series.
Never mind.
I'm not. I got nothing else. I just want more Command and Conquer in my life. That's all.
I would love more of that as well, but unfortunately EA says no, and we are forever denied. Also, in the next couple of days, we will be issuing our first discount code for all Twitch subscribers to the merch store. That is TotalBiscuit.shop. TotalBiscuit.shop. If you are a subscriber, you will get a discount off of everything on that store. Not a bad little deal, if I do say so myself. We'll be sending it out in the next few days via email to all of the subscribers who are there at that point. And then we'll send it out again the next week just so that you can get it and all that kind of thing. So if you wish to subscribe to get that benefit and get a discount off of all of our merchandise, then we will be sending that code out to subscribers over the next few days. So that should be rather good.
Sick.
Indeed. Cool. That pretty much wraps it up, I think, for the show. Thank you very much for watching, folks. And we will see you next time, next week, hopefully with a Pyrian Flax who is not coughing his lungs out. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.